Letitia James mortgage fraud through the lens of Matthew Cox. I want to hear your perspective of what happened exactly. So Letitia James was applying for a mortgage for another property. She already had a residence, and she marked down on the paperwork to get the loan that this was going to be owner occupied by her for most of the year. And she marked that down, and then turns out it wasn't. It was used by a family member that paid her a little bit of rental money income, and she declared it to the IRS as a short-term property rental for tax benefits there. So that's what she did wrong.
All right, so what's going on? So Letitia James.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So no, she's not going to ultimately get convicted because the prosecutor that's in the chair prosecuting her, she's the only one that signed the indictment. And she has no experience as a prosecutor. Trump met her on a golf course, literally. She was an insurance defense attorney for like 2 years and then just hobnobbed with the right people to get in front of Trump like a rabid supporter, and he just installs her to head one of the biggest prosecutorial agencies in the country. I mean, I have more experience. I've tried cases than her, and it's an important job. You have access to agents and hundreds of lawyers and the power of the feds, and she's the only one that was willing to sign the indictment. The person before her was an interim appointee of Trump. Trump thought he would do his bidding. He looked into it for months, said, no, this is not enough. Then he puts in this gal, fires him or he resigns. Both say that I quit. No, you're fired. Okay. And she puts together this indictment. And what do you think? I mean, she got $18,000 savings in a mortgage. So 0.8% better because on the mortgage document, she said it was a secondary residence. Because she's an interim appointee,
Right.
and this is already the second interim appointee, and he's had problems with this now in California, my home district, Central District, California. They put a guy that was like a year older than me, ousted. He's not allowed to be the acting prosecutor. He's not allowed to sign the affidavit, the indictments himself.
Who?
Eric, not Eric, that's from Virginia.
Well, I don't need the name. I'm just saying, I don't
The
understand.
Central District of California, the Attorney General for that district,
Okay.
no go, right? A judge ruled that in Hawaii, because
No go on what? What are you talking about?
on acting as the Attorney General for that district, because Trump put him in and it wasn't confirmed by the Senate.
Okay.
So these are all like interim appointees that really, after the clock hits 120 days, they're not. You need a confirmation from the Senate.
Okay.
And Trump's just been installing people in all different districts that are his homies, and judges are starting to knock them out. So
And you're saying she's one of those?
yeah.
Okay.
So this gal that's prosecuting Letitia James is in that same boat, and Letitia James and James Comey made a similar motion to dismiss that has been successful in multiple districts. So no other prosecutor signed the indictment. It's going to get struck down just for that reason alone.
You mean the indictment itself will be struck down?
Yeah. It's
Not that
it's not
she's
gonna
innocent.
proceed. Not that she's innocent.
Because it's not because that whole kind of argument is not based on the fact that whether she's innocent or not innocent, because
yeah,
you're
it's
just
a
saying
procedural technicality.
yeah, procedural technicality. But to me, like I've watched CNN and some of these other news outlets, and they're all, oh, it could have been a mistake. It could have been she only and the threshold for being indicted is under, it has to be over $100,000, and so they're saying these types of things, and I'm thinking to myself, like, the first time I got indicted, well, actually I didn't get indicted. It was a criminal complaint, and I just signed off. I'm not going to make you indict me because I'm guilty. So. But they came to me and they questioned me, and I went and got an attorney, and the attorney was like, we can wait for the indictment, but you're guilty. Like, so let's just go ahead and allow them to just place a criminal
Was that the
complaint.
domino that led everything to fall?
Yes.
Okay.
But the first time, basically,
Because you keep saying the first time.
oh, I've been arrested multiple times. So that's the one that got me on probation. So the first time I got in trouble, I was, whatever. There was a criminal complaint. They filed a criminal complaint against me, and it was for wire fraud, which is same charge, bank fraud. And so I ended up pleading guilty to one count of wire fraud. And the loss amount and the potential loss amount for me was zero. There was no loss amount. There was no potential loss amount. So the idea that
Can you explain that more in connection with
okay.
your own thing?
Well, in Letitia James's a lot of these, experts that they're coming in are saying that, well, to be federally indicted or for there to be a federal complaint filed against you, for you to be charged federally.
Or you need a dollar threshold. But I'm saying in connection with you, it's saying you said $0. How's that possible? You were making
because I lied on an application. That's what it boils down to.
And you paid it all back.
It was all it was I lied on an application and I got a bank to lend money based on that lie.
So that's not a $0 amount, though.
It is a $0 amount because the way the feds work is, let's say the house is worth $200,000 and the bank lends me $180,000. There's no potential loss and there is no actual loss because
it's tied to the house.
It's tied to the house. If you sold the house, you would be able to pay back the $180,000. So is there a lot of them? Well, the potential loss. What potential loss? That loan is more than covered.
So you weren't doubling up mortgages at that time.
No. This is like I said, the first time. Baby steps. You gotta build your way up to borrowing. Yeah, multiple mortgages. So this is the first time I got in trouble. So I lied on an application, got a bank to lend money. Same thing she did.
Same lie? You said it was a residence?
It's not the same lie.
What was the lie?
I've done owner occupancy many times. Many times. But in this case, that wasn't the lie. But this case was that my borrower had a job that she didn't have. So what ends up happening is,
this was still when you were doing arts and crafts at that guy's mortgage shop and you were just putting in different things.
This was at my own mortgage shop, but yes.
Got it.
Yes. So my point is that it's the same, people are like, oh, that was a little worse. And listen, there's no gray area. It's black or white. You either lied on the application or you didn't. It's irrelevant. Did you lie to obtain a loan under false pretenses? Yes, that's fraud. Is it a lie? It's fraud.
If I'm her lawyer, I say, Letitia, weren't you thinking about living there? Yes, I was. Perfect.
Right.
At the time. Then she's good, right? There's no mens rea. You can't prove it. She didn't do it knowingly or willfully.
So you sign a document at closing that says you intend to live there for at least a year, right?
At that time, she did.
Right. She also, I believe, bought the property in an area that was way too far for her to live in. And that there was already an agreement that one of her family members was supposed to rent the place or something. So
it doesn't seem like it was already in place. The great niece of hers was like at some point living there.
Right. Either way, she wasn't. So I mean, the argument of I was planning on driving 95 or 120 miles a day every single. I was gonna live there. So that's come on, stop. That wasn't possible. And so one. It wasn't a mistake. You clearly checked the box, right? Like you checked the box. You had the conversation with the broker. The broker wrote up an agreement, it's a 1003. It's a residential loan application. It's a 1003. He had to write it up. She looked at the application. She checked all the boxes. She signed all the documents. She had to be disclosed to at least twice. The initial disclosure, and then they disclose again at closing. You saw this. You signed additional paperwork saying you were going to live in the house. That was your intent, to live in the house. And you agreed that you were going to live there for a year. Now, the other thing that I don't understand because I haven't really seen this, and this seems like something that everybody seems to miss. What is the main reason? Not the interest rate. Everybody says the interest rate. What is the main reason why someone says, I plan on owner occupying this property? What CNN and all these news stations are saying was, oh, it's a slightly better interest rate. But the truth is, based on her income, is that if I say I'm going to owner occupy a property, I can get a conventional loan and put down 5%. So let's say the house is worth $100,000. I can put $5,000 down. If it's an investment property, I can put down. I have to put down a minimum of 20% on a conventional loan. So most likely, it wasn't just the slightly better interest rate that ended up over the life of the loan. She would have saved $18,000. It's $18,000 plus it's an extra 15 or 20 or 30, whatever that
Grant she
extra
gets
15
to keep in her pocket.
that she gets to keep in her pocket, and she gets a better interest rate. So, so that to me is like the idea that you didn't lie to obtain this loan. And I'm with her. I get it. Like, I hear you. Fuck those banks. I hear you. Let's lie. But when I did it, I got indicted. Well, not indicted. I got charged. I got placed on probation. I became a felon for the first time. It irrevocably spun my life off into turmoil, which was absolutely my fault. I'm not saying that they did something wrong, but I'm saying it bothers me that that she is a public official. She's an elected public official. She's a lawyer. And people are saying, oh, everybody's kind of shrugging. The left is shrugging, saying, it's not a big deal. What's the problem? It doesn't meet the guidelines. Mine didn't meet the guidelines.
Let's make one more distinction. The facts of your case. She bought a property in Norfolk, Virginia. I believe it's Norfolk. $119,000. Is that around the dollar amount that you were messing around with? And you lied, right? Just for not even for you, for a borrower that you were working with.
Yes.
And you were what part of it? Did the borrower get in trouble?
No.
Because it was all pinned on you.
Yeah.
And wow, so that is much less. And the federal government came after you for that?
The FBI. Of course, they had a slam dunk case on me too.
Why? How did they even get?
Because they had it was a what? Because some other broker, another broker, got in trouble running a straw man scam for some of their borrowers. They were charging outrageous fees. And those borrowers...
Describe straw man game again?
Straw man scam is like I say to you, Jason, listen, I got a house that I'm buying for $500,000, but I can get it appraised at $800,000, and I can get you an $800,000 loan. So there'll be $300,000 left over. The sellers agreed to jack it up to $800,000. So we're going to buy it. You're going to get a mortgage for $800,000. We're going to pull out $300,000 and we're going to split it. It's $150,000. Now you're going to buy 3 of these types of properties. You're going to end up making $500,000. I'll make $500,000, and then you just make a few payments and stop paying. You're a straw man. You're just somebody who's stepping into the situation. You're a fake, kind of not fake person, but you're stepping into the situation as just kind of a go through. And sometimes straw men, they also will say like, you obtain the mortgage on this house and I'm going to make the payments. Like, whereas like maybe I really am going to live there and make the payments, but we're just using your credit. And so it's kind of the same thing. Mm-hmm. So that's what they were doing. They did this to the tune of, I don't know, a few $1 million. I think there was like $500,000 worth of loss. Well, when they got in trouble, they came to me and asked me to refinance their house because they knew me. They owned a mortgage company. That one of the brokers used to work for me. And so I refinanced their house, got them $75,000, gave it to an attorney, and the attorney said, you need to wear a wire against this guy. You need to cooperate against this guy. He just got you $75,000 to pay the lawyer. And they were like, yeah. And so they said, let's contact the FBI. They contacted the FBI, which was already indicted. They'd already indicted them. And they said, my clients will work with you to get this guy.
You.
Me. And so they wired up. We went to lunch. And during lunch, they said, oh my gosh, our place was just raided.
I remember this.
Yeah. And so I buried myself. Oh my God, they don't know about the W-2s, do they? Oh my God, they don't know that, about the whatever, all these documents. So I just buried myself. And I ended up getting charged with, I think I was charged with wire fraud or bank fraud, I forget. But it ended up being, I pled guilty to wire fraud. And so the whole thing was, and there was no dollar amount. There's no loss. There's no loss. There's no potential loss. There's no loss. But I got charged. I pled guilty. I got 3 years. I actually got 42 months. I always say 3 years because it's around that, but it's really 42 months. And the papers always said he was on probation. He had 3 years, but it really wasn't. So the point is that it doesn't make sense to me that I'm a broker and that I get charged with this, and this person was a lawyer, and that you're to say like, oh, I didn't read the documents, or stop, you read the documents, and if you didn't read the documents, you should have read the documents, or I didn't know anything about it. These are the types of defenses I can see people using. I relied on my loan officers. My loan officer did all the paperwork. I just walked in and signed. I told them the correct things. They altered the paperwork. I signed it. Okay, well, that doesn't make sense because every Ponzi scheme guy I know out there had an agreement with his clients saying they could lose up to 100% of their investment. Like there's all the, you ever see those guys? It's like it's professional reliance on professional. It doesn't work. It never works. You can't do that. Tax evasion. What are you talking about? I hired a licensed CPA. Stop. It's still your responsibility. It doesn't matter. You hired the wrong guy. Well, you got to go to jail. So that doesn't work. Like to me, it's like you're a public official. You're a lawyer. You knew better. I don't think she should go to jail, by the way. But I think she should have been indicted.
Did you do 3 years for that?
Well, probation.
Probation.
And I didn't even complete the probation. Of course, I continued to commit fraud. But I'm saying because of that charge, it irrevocably changed the course of my life. My fault. But I went in and I pled guilty and I took a felony. Like to me, that's what's happening here. But instead, they're spinning it as, it's politically motivated, and it may be, but in the end, you still broke the law. Like that's what it is. But and then you have the whole thing of like she ran on a platform of going after Donald Trump, and then now it's happening to her. And everybody's like, "Oh, this is so wrong." She ran on a platform of it. Why is it wrong? I mean, turnabout's fair play.
I feel like those people would say that he already won the presidency, so it's like kind of take the high road. It's the country's the one that's losing because
do
they're
you think he's going to take the higher road?
I don't think so. To tie up the Letitia James situation, I think that with Donald Trump pushing the stress test of the Constitution as far as he does, it's kind of like the guy that we all have Miranda rights because of. So do you know that story of Ernesto Miranda? So it's this guy in the 60s that is accused of rape. He gets taken into an interrogation. He signs a confession that says, I'm voluntarily knowing my rights, confessing to this. They go to trial. They convict him.
Okay.
His attorney appeals, saying that he didn't know that he had the right to remain silent. He didn't know about the Fifth Amendment.
Right.
And the Supreme Court actually agrees.
You at the very least have to notify him of his rights.
It's made up, though. Because it doesn't say in the Fifth Amendment that you also have to notify someone that's in police custody. So one of those instances where the Supreme Court sort of reads it into the Constitution, and then forever after, they actually retried him anyways without the conviction, still got him. But because of this case, while it worked its way up an appeal, now everyone, and he became like a celebrity in the 60s because of that. He would like sign Miranda rights cards that cops had to walk around with.
Right.
And he actually got stabbed in a bar fight 10 years after. So he did like 10 years. He gets stabbed in a bar fight and gets killed. And then the suspects that they arrested, they read their Miranda rights to him.
Oh,
so there's some irony there. Yeah. So I think that there's oftentimes these quirky. So is like Miranda like a hero? No, he's not a hero. But as a result of this guy, his story becomes a vehicle for so many people to have like the bedrock of rights once you started getting into the justice system. And I think that you'll find that like, is Letitia James sympathetic? No, she's not. But she is going to shore up the Constitution in ways that will help society, moving forward, where it's going to be limits on prosecutorial power from the president. The president actually can bully the DOJ. Like everyone, including myself, as an attorney, I was looking into this for this conversation. Like, what are the limits? Can Trump say this mayor of this city, go find something on him? It's not. There's nothing in the Constitution that prohibits him from doing that. Nixon was a big fan of doing those kinds of things. So the limit that's going to save her is that 120-day interim thing. That's going to be shored up. And it's going to have been tested, and he's going to work its way all the way up to the Supreme Court, I have no doubt. And he's going to lose, and it's going to be one of these fundamental rights that will help check the president so we don't become some other kind of country that the president just has plenary power.
How do you know that they're going to – because she is acting – if she's the acting, U.S. attorney at the time, like she shouldn't have the right to indict people?
She should not have the right to indict people. Not where she's the only signator on the. If there was another prosecutor that was properly put in, that would be okay. But she's literally the only one out of that office that was willing and able to sign that document indicting her. And I think that the judge will sink her. It's a judge in South Carolina. Comey's case and her case got kicked out of the district because there's too much pressure there, so they want to have a separate jurist. She's a tough judge. She's great. She's in South Carolina. I think she's Republican leaning, but she's got mixed rulings. And I think that she's going to latch on to this. There's 3 other instances where Trump's person is getting knocked out because of this rule. And I think she'll just latch on to that because judges want to find that middle ground anyways, especially at the lower level of the courts. I
don't think you have to be, I'm not even sure you have to be an attorney at all to indict someone or even prosecute someone.
I think you're wrong.
I think I'm absolutely right.
Well,
Man, pull that up.
let's
I don't think
Google
you're right.
it.
Here's why. U.S. attorney. I know for a fact because I've met several guys at Coleman. Here's what happened. There was a U.S. attorney, an assistant U.S. attorney, who indicted these guys and then took them to trial and prosecuted them at trial. They were found guilty. One guy got like 25 years. I don't know what the other guys got.
Oh, and he was found to have not been an attorney.
You know why he wasn't an attorney? Like 4 or 5 years earlier, he'd gotten a DUI.
And he got his license taken away?
No, he didn't even get he just stopped paying it. Like he stopped paying it because I think he was afraid.
He didn't want to trigger something?
He didn't want to trigger something. But he was a U.S. attorney. He was an assistant U.S. attorney. So he just kept going. He kept waiting to be fired for it to be found out, and he never was. So he had to continue with his job. So these guys at Coleman went and they applied saying, this guy indicted me and prosecuted me. He wasn't even an attorney. And I think the Fifth, what is Florida, like the Fifth Circuit?
I'm not sure.
They came back and
I
they
think
said
it's the 11th.
11th. You're right. The 5th is, I think, in California.
No,
No,
it's 9th. Try again.
Fuck, where's the 5th? Anyway, so it's like the 11th Circuit or whatever came back and said, "Listen, there's nothing in the Constitution that says that you have to be prosecuted by an active or whatever, by an attorney represented in the bar or whatever it was." And it was like they were like, "But they were a U.S. attorney," and they tried. And they said, "No, there's nothing that says it." And so they
No, the distinction there would be that, again, it's the same thing. There were other acting U.S. attorneys that were properly licensed working the case. That would be why the opinion, I'm sure, fell in that direction.
Hold on. Assistant U.S. attorney is not actually an attorney, but he's prosecuting criminal cases.
It's a bit of a fruity phone case you got there. Sort of this
Fruity?
maroon
cool.
leather.
It's fun.
I think you should be in California. I think secretly you're a California guy, and this Tampa thing is just a phase.
That's absolutely not true. Okay, listen, I'm gonna find it on ChatGPT because I remember it was a case.
You're not going to find it. It's just wrong. I'm telling you, even if
okay.
it's right, it's the nuance that I'm talking about. I mean, I am intellectually curious about that.
Yeah, we need to look it up. Matt, you know what? Pete would know. My buddy Pete would know.
Mm-hmm.
Frank Amadeo would know. Frank
that
Amadeo
guy.
would know.
I would love to come back and have a conversation with him.
And I remember the guy's name was Glenn because they called him Cow Tongue.
He had a
The guy
large tongue.
he was a big guy and he had a tongue. And not just that, not only did he have a big tongue, he did this all the time. Well, I told him. And I mean, the tongue was huge. And he was a huge guy. I mean, he had a head like this big. He was just massive. He wanted to kill Frank one time. Anyway.
The thing that most fascinates me about you is that you're really someone that I don't know. I don't know enough to
Right.
certify this at all. But it seems like you are someone that has changed. That's very difficult to do as a human being.
How? I'm still an asshole. Don't take that from me.
The criminal part.
Oh, yeah. No. Listen, and here's what I think. You know what I think it is? Well, one, of course, look, they got me. They beat me. I mean,
You were
I was
exceptionally stupid
broken.
because you had a lot of money and you could have just left the country.
I know, but I don't. The leaving the country thing, my fear is, I don't,
You're
know.
just on a beach in Trinidad, no extradition. You're
Trinidad, I feel like the locals would chop me up and eat me. You know, I don't, no. Where am I going to go? You go to Mexico, the cops will find out you have money, they'll take it from you. The cartel will start extorting you. Like, everybody thinks that every place is as civilized as the United States, and it's just not. There are areas in Mexico that are fine, but the areas in Mexico that are like where retirees go and stuff, like they're still almost in the United States. They're still watching US TV. They're going to find me. They're going to see me at some point.
You knew you were going away at some point.
No, I really didn't. I was that arrogant. I thought I'm just too smart for him. Mm-hmm. You underestimate my arrogance.
That's what it was.
It was absolutely arrogance. Mm-hmm. And I think part of it is, getting caught and realizing you're not that smart and you're not smart enough to beat these people. You're not smart enough to beat these people. And the truth is that a criminal has to be on point all the time. You cannot make a mistake. The government they can make mistake after mistake after mistake. They only have to be right once. They only got to catch you once. And I have to continually make the right call. And so, you're just not going to win. So I wasn't going to win.
There were so many close calls.
There was tons of close. And every close call I look back and I think, why didn't you stop? You're just a fucking idiot. Why? That was should have been such an eye-opening experience or close call or whatever, and you didn't. And the other thing is, I think I aged out of it. I think I got to a point where when you're young, you're invincible, and you think everything's possible, and you can withstand any storm, and you're just, that's why like 18-year-old boys make great soldiers and 45-year-old men don't, because 45-year-old men hear their orders and go, I don't know about that. That seems like could go bad. And 18-year-olds are like, we can do it.
Did you see a lot of people with you in prison above 45 that were nonviolent offenders, and you go, man, this guy shouldn't be in here anymore?
Oh, yeah. A lot of the doctors I saw, there was a lot of doctors from like pill mills. And this is funny because they would talk about like the first time they went in and sat down with like a prosecutor and their lawyer. Mm-hmm. Where literally, and then there's lawyers, if you go on YouTube and stuff and talk to some of these federal prosecutors and stuff, that they're like, typically when you walk into an interrogation room with a defendant, they're like, right away, you're like, okay, where did you get the drugs? Or, hey, when did you decide to rob the bank? How long did you watch it? He said, we spend the first 30 minutes to an hour with the doctors just trying to convince them they've committed a crime. Because they genuinely are like, and I have to agree. Like, I'd say that 90% of the doctors that I met that had prescribed opiates, even if they thought this guy might be a drug user, they answered all the questions correctly. They had all the documentation, and I don't see how I can not prescribe the medication. Like, I think I don't feel right, but there's nothing quite. You know what I'm saying? Like, the MRI shows that he's got 2 bulging discs. He's saying that he's in pain. We gave him the medication, and we gave him a blood test, and he's taking the medication. He's not selling it. He's taking the proper dosage. He said that he only drinks maybe once a week. He's not saying he drinks every day. He's like, all the things that we could do to exclude him from giving him the medication, he's answered those questions correctly, and I'm feeling like, fuck it, I'm going to prescribe him the medication. Plus, he's already taking it. He's already like, and then they give it to him, and then what happens is that they're knocking these guys out. They're doing like one after another, checking out everything. Okay, everything. Yeah, I'm just going to re-up your script. Or you come in and for the first consultation, they spend 15 or 20 minutes. But the truth is there's 3 bulging discs. He's in pain. He was in a car accident. He this, he that. And so what happens when they would get them in the room and they would explain all this to the doctor? Of course, they're like, well, he was lying. But how do I know if he's lying? He's got an MRI. Well, that was a fake MRI. Or he has a bulging disc, but he's actually a drug addict. You shouldn't have. Okay, but I didn't know that. Like, and you don't have anything that says I knew that. You don't. Matter of fact, when they'll send in, the authorities will send in patients wearing a wire, and the patients will actually have said, yeah, I drink 3 or 4 beers a day. Oh, you do? Yeah. I'm sorry, I can't renew your. You know what I'm saying? There are certain things that are like a checklist, and they'd be like, "Yeah, I can't. You're drinking alcohol every day. You just admitted you're drinking alcohol. I can't re-up this script." Or they're saying, "Yeah, it hurts right here." There's a reason that easy side hustle feels like a felony, just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. They've got over 1,000 attorneys, and they've been fighting for the people for over 35 years. That's not luck. That's results. Like this. In Florida, an insurance company offered someone $350,000. Morgan & Morgan got them $12 million. Another client in Pennsylvania was offered $500,000. Morgan & Morgan helped them walk away with $29 million. When you hire them, it's like showing up to a fight with a legal army behind you. And their fee? It's free unless they win. So if you're ever injured and it's not your fault, don't mess around. You can start your claim without even leaving the couch. Go to forthepeople.com/Matthew Cox. That's forthepeople.com/Matthew Cox. And they're like my lower back, and they're like, okay, you have a bulging disc in your neck. Like, something's not right. It's not correlating correct. I can't. And so they'll send these people in, and I've seen doctors that were indicted when they sent in 2 and 3 undercovers, and every time they were denied. They still indicted them. They indicted them. These guys go to trial. They lose because they put 5 different drug addicts up there. Says, oh, he knew this, he knew that. Okay, well, you don't have any that. None of that's true. They get indicted, and then they do 4 years or 8 years or 10 years. And so it's a big. So there was lots of those guys that I thought that I saw that were. I felt like they were innocent.
But those are people that shouldn't have been in there from the jump. I'm talking
That's
about
what
people
I meant.
that
I thought that's what you meant.
Right, I'm talking about people that, like you said, aged out of it, where you can just see that whatever bad blood they had or mischievousness that they're just gone. They wouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, I would say, I hate to say that. I want to say some of the mobsters, but some of them have done such horrific things. And just because you're a nice person doesn't mean you won't do something horrible. Like
Did you have this distinct feeling while you were there, like, I'm different from these people? Like, yeah, all these people, but I'm a little different. Like,
I mean, in some ways, it's a tough question, because in some ways I felt like, kind of like, how did I get myself here? Like I shouldn't be here. But there were other times you'd be talking to somebody and you'd almost feel like, wow, a great connection with this guy. Like we're on the same level. And what we're talking about is like fraud. So a lot of the fraud guys, I was like, fuck, like we think a lot alike. But then there were other times I'd be sitting there with a bunch of guys, and I'll give you a great example. It was one time, and I don't think I've ever. Oh, I think I might. I don't know if you've heard this.
I'll tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, is that one time I was sitting there and there were I was with a couple of black guys. Was eating lunch, or I was at a table somewhere. I don't know if we were eating or what we were doing. We were doing something, and maybe it might have been in the unit, whatever. And the guys are asking questions to me, right? Because they all think that I'm going to be able to tell them how to pull off what I did. And parts of it are actually very easy. Like there are some of the scams that I did that are actually it's a couple documents. It's pretty simple scams. Some of them more complicated. So we're having this conversation, and I'm talking about, and really it's more like, I think it was more like, tell me your story real quick. Like some guy brings, bro, Cox, come here. Tell him what you did real quick. Tell him real quick. You know what I'm saying? You're like, all right. But these are street guys. That's why I kind of mentioned that they're black guys. They were kind of project guys. They were raised in the projects. They're selling drugs. And we're sitting there, and I'm shooting the shit with them, right? Like I'm like, okay, I did this and this and this, and then I borrowed this much. You're like, dang, bro, so you had a couple $1 million. I'm like, no, we were spending money. So I said I had maybe like $700,000 at this point. And me and my girlfriend get into an argument, a huge argument, and we decide to split up. I'm like, and so I give her like $500,000, and I take like $100,000. And they're like, well, what? And I was like, well, I mean, they're like, why you give her so much money? I was like, well, we were arguing, and I said she argued that, and I knew I wasn't coming back. And I said, so her argument was like, I can give you $100,000. You'll go somewhere, and in a month from now, you'll have another $500,000, $1 million. But I have to live off this money, so I need as much as you can, as much. She really wanted everything. She wanted to give me like 10 grand. Like she was just a vengeful person. So,
and you needed to pay her off to bury the lead.
I was hoping to pay her off to at least give her enough time, because I knew she'd implode, which she did. Well, she actually got caught, but she would have imploded eventually. So I think she made it a year. So maybe 6 months. So the point is that I gave her $500,000. I said, so I take $100,000 and I leave. And I'm telling you, both these guys pretty much at the same time. And I've had this conversation with multiple guys, usually street guys, but not when I say drug dealers, I don't mean like a low-level kind of drug dealer. I mean, these are serious drug dealers. These are guys that they started off small, but very quickly went through the ranks. So these guys are moving like keys. So the first thing that they said was, why don't you just fucking kill her? And I was like, what? I'm not going to kill anybody. And they were like, bro, for $500,000? Man, fuck that bitch. I mean like much more guttural, much more, scary, that kind of, where you realize when you meet somebody that you know has killed people and that they really are just, they just grew up in just like a savage environment, and the drug kind of game, and I say the industry makes it sound too proper, but yeah, the drug industry, it's vicious. These guys are shooting at each other, they're killing each other, they're brutal. And when that guy, he leans in and he's like, man, why don't you just kill that fucking bitch? And another guy's like, man, I'd have just fucking killed that bitch. Fucking $500,000. Fuck that hoe. And then they're serious. They're like, you get this chill over you, and you're like, oh, I shouldn't be here. Like, I really shouldn't even be talking to you guys. Like, you guys are, like, we're on two completely different levels. You're horrible human beings. Like, I wouldn't kill someone over money. Like, I'm just gonna take the money and I'll start over. And they're, fuck that bitch. I'll fucking kill that. I mean, they're just, like, we're different. Mm-hmm. We're different people. Listen, my favorite story, and Colby's heard this one.
I heard that last one too.
Yeah, sorry.
Let me pin.
Oh, you did?
Of course, you know that he did.
No.
Right? And before we get on, I ask him to only say at least one story that Colby hasn't heard, and he knows that you've heard that story.
I don't know.
He can't help himself. But like,
no, I don't. When did I tell that story? I never.
Yeah, I got you, bro. I'm gonna tell you a story he never heard.
No, but I'm saying he told you.
What
are you talking about? I'm not.
You're always playing chess at like 5 dimensions.
I am not.
You cannot turn it off.
I wouldn't have said that because he fucking just told you. I wouldn't have addressed it at all. Anyway, what was the other guy? Old Man Jim. You've heard the Old Man Jim one where he was a painter. He painted. This is a guy who literally. Supposedly, I mean, this is what another inmate told me, because I used to hang out with him, and I would walk like back and forth to the unit with him, right? Help him carry his stuff. He's an old man. He's like 70 years old. He has bad knees. He walked funny. He was, and so I used to help carry his paints and his canvases, whatever, and I'd walk back and forth. He was always just a nice old man, and so one day we're in the painting room, and the CO walks in, is a female CO. She walks in and she's like, whose paintings are these? And he's like, oh, those are mine. She's like, I told you, whatever his last name was, but let's say Jim. Jim, I told you, if you did this again, I told you I was going to chuck these paintings. What are you doing hiding them? Because they didn't want anything on the lockers, and they would put them up on the locker. There's just no room, and they're hiding them behind paintings and other paintings. She starts screaming and hollering, and so while she's screaming and hollering, he just, all of a sudden he goes, you could tell it's like he couldn't stop himself. Like he tried to stop himself from giggling and laughing. And she's like, what? And we're all kind of watching, you don't want to pay too much attention, but, and then he's like, and she's like, what's so funny? What are you laughing? He's like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You're right. No, let me get him right now. I'll get him. I won't put it up again. He goes over, he hobbles over there and, gets him down, and I go help him. And so when we're walking back, or actually she might have just left or something, and I went to him and I said, hey, go, Jim, why were you laughing? And keep in mind, Jim was there for drugs, but he'd had several trials that he'd won in the state where he had murdered the witnesses against him. In one particular case, and this was told to me by another inmate, this was back in the late 70s, early 80s. Jim had killed somebody, and there were like 4 people that were witnesses, and he was being held in the county jail. Back then, county jails were not super secure, so he actually escapes. Like, this is the kind of thing where like they put you out. Oh, he's an inmate. He's about to go to trial for murder, but we're going to go ahead and let him trim the bushes in the front. Like just stupid. Like, and so of course he takes off. A year later, he goes back and walks back into like the jail or the sheriff's office and says, "Hey, my name is Jim, Johnson, and there's a warrant out for me." And they're like, "Oh, holy jeez, yeah, what the hell?" And they walk out and they cuff him and walk him in. And then the lawyer comes in and sees him and says, "What's going on?" He's like, "I'm ready to go to trial. I just turn myself back in. And so then the prosecutor goes to kind of put together his trial, his people again. And this witness, they can't find at all. Nobody's seen her in a year or so. This witness died, of fucking whatever, murdered, shot in the head, whatever. This witness, everybody's dead. The 4 witnesses are all dead. Maybe it's 6. I don't know how many. It was a lot. And he's ready to go. They still held him for a couple more months trying to put something together, and they eventually drop it, and he walks out. And what he did was he escaped and murdered like 4 or 5 people and made sure nobody was there and went back. And he'd done this multiple times. But eventually what happens is he's so brutal, the feds come in and they grab him for a drug charge and they give him 30 years. And so he basically had to leave. So he was wrapping up that 30 years by the time I met him.
That's why the drug laws are so
horrific
in this country, because they need something to... That's easy. We see you have the drugs on you. Like murder beyond reasonable doubt is very
They're going to get you. Yeah, they could get you for something, I guess. But yeah, that's so. But he's one of those guys. So when I said to him, "Hey Jim," I said, "What? Why were you laughing? Why'd you start laughing at the CO? Like she was pissed. What were you?" And he said, "Oh." And we're walking. We're sitting there, doing something. And he's like, he kind of chuckles. I don't know why. He said, it just dawned on me that she's yelling at me, and I was thinking to myself, if we were on the street right now, I'd chop this bitch's head off and stick her head in the trunk of my car and drive around for a week till it started smelling. He said, "But I'm in prison now, and I just have to take it." And he kind of laughed, and I thought, holy shit. I mean, yeah. Nicest guy. Nice guy. I liked Jim.
And but that's an advanced age where he's saying, "I still have that in me."
But in that case, I don't think he was so old that that's one of the things they say about serial killers is that serial killers won't stop on their own. They might take gaps, but they really will never kind of stop unless they're either they die, they're incarcerated, or they age out of it. And what happens at some age, your testosterone drops, your hormones change, and you no longer really have that desire to commit murder anymore. And the other thing is that in many cases, you get too old. You're in your 60s or 70s, and you're not capable. Like even a 120-pound girl is going to give a 70-year-old man who's not in great shape, she's going to give him a hard time. Mm-hmm. Like you're not capable of walking up and just grabbing somebody by the throat and throwing them in your car and subduing them. You're just not. You're 70, 75 years old. You're just too old. And I think part of that is, and that's kind of the thing when I was in prison. Like I think I also got older, and I look back and I think I just can't kill these women anymore. No, I think I got to a point where now I look at the things that I did and I kind of go, wow, you just walked in that fucking bank. You didn't know if that fucking ID was going to pass. I just made an ID at my desk. It's made with transparency and reverse fucking ink. Like I reversed the print on it and glued it. It's glued together. You used a glue stick. This thing is... You're going to walk into a bank and open up a bank account using this little arts and crafts project you made 30 minutes ago. Like, you're fucking insane. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to write it out. We'll see. The fuck, are you insane? Like, I look back now and I think, that's insane. You didn't know. I couldn't. The way I tested it was I just handed it to a couple brokers. What do you think? Do you think it looks good? I mean, yeah, it just looks like a beat up license. It looks pretty good. It looks pretty good. Like you don't know. You're a guy that used to work for Pestex before you came to work for me.
I don't know. I don't believe you. I think that you're doing very well right now with this thing, and you have too much to lose.
That's a part of it. That's certainly you're not wrong. That's certainly a part of it. Like, would I commit fraud again? Absolutely. But I don't think I would do it in the same way I did it before. Like I'm saying, some of the things I did, like walking with a fake ID, like if I was going to do it now, I'd go get a real ID from the driver. Like I can go now. I eventually figured out how to just go into the DMV and get them to give me an ID. That's what I would do. Because now, the few times that I went into a bank with a real ID, I'm ready to argue. No. Go. Is the manager here? No, that I need that check cash. Like, I'm ready to argue. Let's go. We're going to call the police. Call the fucking police. That's my money. Like, I know I got a real ID. That cop comes, he's going to look at it and go, yeah, hold on. Let me look it up. Oh, it's a real ID. What are you doing? Give the guy his money. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where I would have to be, that level of confidence. And also, it's so easy to commit fraud now. And keep in mind, when I did it, I had to go into public records. I had to walk into I had to go downtown to Hillsborough County and walk in public records. I'm on film. I'm going through the metal detector. I'm going in. I'm talking to 3 and 4 people to get the documents. I don't know how to use this machine. And so I'm doing all this. I'm printing out a bunch of stuff. I'm paying
to get deeds, to put in more
deeds, mortgages. Then I have to go back. There was no, I'm going to scan it, and then I'll give you my prepaid Visa, which is what you can do now. You get a prepaid Visa. You give them the Visa number, and you scan it, and you send it in, and they charge you $12 or whatever. I had to go back in. I had to look at this woman, to look at the document, to make sure that every box was checked and all the bells and whistles, was all running. And they're looking at it and they're like, and then they put it down and they scan it and then they say, we'll mail it back to you in 10 days. And you're like, and you walk back out. I mean, for all I know, she went, boop, hit the button and said, grab this fucking guy, or hey, let's take some photos of this guy. Something's not right with this. Like, I don't know how it works. At that time, I didn't know what's happening. It's a fake notary. It's a fake signature. It's a fake everything. So I don't know. I'm just walking. So, I mean, I had to go to the bank to open my bank accounts. I had to go to the title, to the closings. I had to go in there and sign for closings. I had to go back to the bank to pull money out over and over and over. So it's not like it's a one-time thing. And if I get away with no, it's every couple of days you're going into a different bank. $5,000, $7,000, $6,000. Like it was like, now it's so easy. Now I could sit in Starbucks and I could just, let me make it, got Word, I'm gonna make a deed. You know what? I'm not even gonna type the whole deed out. I'm just gonna get a PDF. I'm just gonna scan it, copy, paste, drop it, change the font, change the size. Let's rearrange this, clear that out. I'm gonna drop it into Photoshop. Let me wipe that out. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna make a notary stamp in Photoshop, and I'll just put on a transparency, place it over the thing, and boom, print it off. I mean, like, it's such a joke now. You don't have to do anything. I can do everything sitting in Starbucks, drinking my venti vanilla latte, which I love. I can eat one of those new,
now you sound like you're from California.
I know. I was just gonna say, I almost made a liberal crack, but they got the new pumpkin spices. I mean, they got my hooks. They got their hooks in me. They got every once in a while, my wife and I boycott them for like a month. We get upset for some reason. We boycott that. And then, I'm going to Dunkin' Donuts. But then I don't know who owns Dunkin' Donuts, to be honest with you. I don't really know. I feel like that's some blue-collar family or something, but it's probably owned by some Swiss company or something. I have no idea. It's like Harley Davidson's owned by some fucking, what?
Chinese teenager.
Yeah, like I don't know who owns Harley Davidson, Bud Light, I thought for sure. Bud Light, well, that's definitely an American. It's not even an American company. It's another Belgium or Swiss company. Anyway, so what I'm sitting here,
and everyone's owned by Coca-Cola.
It's ridiculous. Like, you don't know. Like, you're not hurting anybody. So I think there's people laying in a bed at night, rolling around, thinking Cox isn't buying our new spice latte. But yeah, you can sit in a Starbucks. And I can make all the documents, file all the documents, create everything I need, file them online, open up bank accounts online, do closings online, talk to everybody I need online, sitting in Starbucks. I'll bet you within a day, I could set up the sale of a house within a day. Can't really close in a day because they still have to do title work. But let's say within 2 weeks, you got a closing. And I'll bet you could have all the money out easily within 30 days. I'll bet you I could get a couple $1 million.
Build like an excess mortgage, pull out the extra money.
Well, I was actually thinking you just sell the house. You find a house that's, let's say, up for sale, so nobody lives there. and then
just sell it, even though you never owned it.
Never owned it. Sell the house to one of these companies, these large companies that buy them sight unseen. They send their own appraiser out. He does a drive-by review. You don't have to let him in. He does drive-by review. He undercuts the price by 20, 25%.
Who cares?
Right. And you hem and haw. You got to be like, oh, it's worth $800,000. What are you doing? Wait, $600,000. Well, I can't do anything with that. Well, I do need the money though. Okay. So, you do that and you get a bunch of, I could sell that same house to 4 different companies like that, close it at 4 different title companies, put the money into multiple bank accounts. And if you go on the dark web, you probably find mules in China where you can send the money to China and they'll send it back to you. And then it's a matter of how do you want to get rid of it. You want to buy diamonds? You want to buy silver, precious metals of some kind?
Something from the Louvre.
Maybe.
Never know.
Did you see that guy they caught?
They caught someone?
Did you see him?
No, I know they've had.
Once again, this is
I
TikTok.
think it's a suspect.
Yeah.
I don't
Are
think
you
they
sure?
caught. I don't think they caught anyone.
Listen.
Typically, after a week of those things, it seems like statistically you never catch them.
Well, the picture it once again, it is TikTok that I saw. But
Stop
it was
getting your
multiple.
information from TikTok, you uncultured swine.
The-
You are a grown man. Read more books. You write. You're an author.
You're
Like, oh, they're
are you looking
stealing
it up?
spleens
Are
in
you
Turkey.
serious?
They're stealing spleens from Turkey. You don't know what you're talking about, man.
Colby is the worst Jamie.
This article says Louvre high suspect is a social media star and former museum guard. Reports say.
That sounds pretty good.
And you have to see. Yeah, it sounds pretty. I'm ready to convict. And if you see the picture of him, like he looks like a fucking supermodel.
Interesting.
Fucker.
He needed the diamonds. You're saying.
Is it
The picture is like.
Hold on.
Well, that guy that's like the mugshot.
This guy, you probably can't see that far.
Is he good? Oh yeah, on the left. Kind of the.
Good looking, brown hair, stubble.
That other guy
Yeah.
that went viral for his mugshot ended up marrying into this like $1 billion family.
Oh my god! Is this he was like a half black guy, half white guy? He's got like a little.
He married
diamond.
into like a Jewish like.
Did he get like a contract with like
And he
Calvin
got
Klein
a
or something?
contract. Yeah.
Yeah, good for him.
Fascinating stuff. Yeah. No,
He's probably a great guy. I think the situation. I think a lot of crime is committed by the situation you're in. If you haven't been raised, upper middle class, who knows what you'd be doing.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite orator on YouTube, he's deceased, Christopher Hitchens, talks about how if you grew up in Afghanistan, chances are you're going to be, Islamic.
Yeah,
leaning.
there's very possible.
It's
possible.
What are the odds of that?
Yeah.
And so, or like, what are the odds that people find the one in their city? Like, that's great.
Yeah,
that
how
the
lucky.
one was there. So
Imagine.
I definitely recognize that. It's a big privilege, the cloth I was cut from. But back to that. So let's get meta, even as between me and you, right? Like before we start recording, I tell you it's important to me. I want you to say something fresh for Colby. You guys argue that there's nothing fresh. Then you say to me, oh, I got this story. And you know that Colby's heard it, right?
I don't know that Colby.
You know that Colby's heard it.
I don't know
and you're
that
just
Colby's
that
heard that.
attentive that an hour into a conversation, you're like, he said that. I'm picking it up. He's putting up what he's putting down. How
Colby's heard 20 hours. He's heard 20 hours.
He's heard a lot more than 20 hours.
No, that's what I'm saying. 20 hours of my story straight, and he's heard bits and pieces over the course of 5 years.
Yeah.
What is the
I'm
likelihood
aware.
I can come up with anything he hasn't heard?
I'm sure high. I'm sure that there's a little box in your brain in the recess where you're like, that's the box we never open. I'm sure that exists. Just admit the box exists and we can move on. I won't hold you to it.
I'm trying to think. I actually think there was the. God, I'd love to tell that story. About there was a guy named Rudy Arnott. Did I ever tell you about Rudy Arnott?
Is this the guy who comes to you in the gym?
Yeah.
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 I've heard Rudy or not.
No,
You
but
told me that.
I was thinking about a story, something that happened when I had owned a triplex. There were 2 apartments downstairs, and I lived upstairs.
Yeah, Rudy didn't pay, and you come busting in.
No, this was a story where, look, first of all, Rudy was bipolar, and we were constantly trying to get him.
I don't want a story about Rudy. I don't care about Rudy.
It was a funny story.
It doesn't matter. Okay. You are the interesting person. Rudy's not here today.
This is a pretty interesting story. But anyway, go ahead.
We were trying to get to that box. If you don't want to open it, that's fine. Acknowledge it's there. We can move on.
I don't know what it is. I can't think of what it is.
Fine. We'll move on anyways. You win.
I did tell a story the other day that I don't think I've ever told. which was the one about my friend Arthur, who got the check from State Farm. We figured out how to get a check from State Farm. Remember they stole his radio, and he ends up buying a Kawasaki Ninja with the money.
The motorcycle.
Yeah, but his car the radio got stolen in his car, and his insurance company wouldn't cover it. You remember this?
Yeah, continue on.
No.
But I told that the other day. So it was the radio got stolen, and when he went to go get the car insurance, they were like, okay, well the car, to replace it, it's $350, and your deductible is $500, whatever it was. They wouldn't pay for it, and he was like, okay. And so he told me about it, and then I remember I was eating dinner with my dad, and I said to my dad, listen to this. My buddy Arthur. He's like, right. And I tell him about Arthur and what happened. He goes, huh. He goes, well, where was the car? I was parked at his house. He goes, yeah, but where? Was it in the driveway or was it on the street?
Then the homeowner's insurance kicks in.
Right. You heard the story? No? So it was on the street. And I said it was on the street. So, oh, yeah, it's too bad if it was in the thing. So I tell Arthur, where's the police report? We look at the police report and I go, it doesn't say, it just says it is at the house. And he's like, okay. And then I explain what my dad said. And then he goes through his parents' files and he finds out that they're with like State Farm or something. And he calls as his dad and puts in a claim. You haven't heard this? Mm-mm. What are you talking about?
I mean,
seriously? Did I tell it here? Maybe I told it on another podcast.
Fantastic. I got what I wanted.
What?
A story Colby hasn't heard.
Okay.
How do you use your attentiveness to someone?
I didn't finish the fucking story.
They got the check. You got the check. That's the end.
Yeah, but we gotta finish it for the TikTok.
Let me tell you the story for the TikTok. All right, so listen. I have my buddy Arthur.
Yeah.
He's got his car. This is when I was like 7. I was like, I don't know. I must have been, I know. I had to be like 17 or 18 years old, right? Because I remember I had a car. I had just gotten a GT Mustang 5.0. That's when that was a big deal. You won't remember that. LX, by the way. Not that this, so it was really.
Oh, okay, good.
So, So Arthur had a vehicle and his radio or something got stolen, right? Like, I think it was parked outside of his parents' house. So he applied to get with his insurance company, but his deductible is like $500 or $1,000. And they said, with the car to replace the radio is like $400, $300. Like, sorry, we're not going to replace it. It was either that or it was an aftermarket stereo. And they said, we won't replace aftermarket stereos. And either way, it was like below the $500 or $1,000 deductible. So I go back and I tell my dad that we're eating dinner that night, and I tell my dad, yeah, listen to this. What happened with Arthur? And I explain the whole thing to him. So they're not going to pay him. And he goes, was the car at his house? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, was it in the driveway or was it on the street? And I go, I think it was on the street. And he goes, oh, that's too bad. And I go, why? He said, well, because if it was in the driveway, he could apply on his homeowner's insurance and get it covered. He said, but they may still have a deductible. I was like, oh, okay. So I go back and I explain this to Arthur. And Arthur goes, huh. And he goes, well, yeah, but... So he then calls his father. His father was a lawyer. Calls his father and explains to his father. His father says, no, that would be insurance fraud. We're not going to do that. And he goes, oh, okay. And he says, and he's also, we have $1,000 deductible. Still not going to get it covered. Okay. So he comes back, he tells me that. And I go, well, I said, I said, why don't you call and make the claim as your father? Like, it's just a phone call. You don't go in. Maybe you have to sign some documents, but your dad's got a fax machine. And he was like, huh. So he goes through his dad's stuff and he finds like he's with like Allstate or State Farm something. So let's say he's with State Farm. So he gets the documents, he calls and makes a claim. And when he makes the claim, because we now know about the deductible, he says it's an aftermarket stereo and it was extremely expensive. It was like $7,000 or $8,000 or something. We had a friend that worked at Sound Advice. I don't even think it's there anymore. We go to him and we explain the situation to him, and he writes up receipts that are backdated like 2 years or a year or something for like a $9,000 stereo or something. I don't know how much, but whatever. He then submits those less the $1,000. They give him a check for like $8,000 or $6,000 or something. it was a lot because I think back then like you could get like a Kawasaki Ninjas for like $3,500 or something. So he ends up buying like spends like $3-4 grand and buys a Kawasaki Ninja 600, and he has a couple grand or has some money left over. Never gave me anything for being the brainchild behind this whole thing. But I remember his dad was furious about the motorcycle. Wouldn't let him park it there. He's furious. Never really realized he'd made the claim. And that was back too, by the way, when they mailed you a check and you could just sign someone's name to back of it and put pay to the order of and then write your name down and deposit it. Like they don't really let you. I don't know if they let you do that. I know that I've gotten checks before where somebody wrote me a check and I couldn't, like I didn't have a bank account and I'd actually go physically with the person to deposit the check in their bank account because they don't let you do it anymore. At least they didn't a few years ago when I tried. So yeah, he did that. He got the money and he bought the place. And you know why? What I think the story's about that I think Colby does know the part about is 6 months later, Arthur has to go see a girl in Orlando and he comes to me and says, "Man, can I drive your car?" My parents were gone for like a week or two for vacation. I was like, yeah. He goes, "I'll let you use my motorcycle." I was like, this one he's heard. And he's like, "Holy shit." And I was like, "Oh, fuck." Like I was really nervous, right? Like my dad would kill me if he knew. But maybe he was gone. And I thought, "Bro, I swear you can't be doing anything crazy. You can't." No, I would never. So we switch and I get his motorcycle. And so I'm driving the motorcycle. I take it out the first day. You understand? I live in Temple Terrace, which is a little kind of a semi-subdivision of Tampa. It's its own city, but that's irrelevant. I'm driving in the residential streets. I pull up to, like, I haven't even left the residential streets. I pull up to a stop sign. There's a little bit of sand, not a lot. And I turn, I look, okay, great. And I go to turn slowly, by the way, not fast. I'm, the fucking bike, slips out from underneath me. I don't even feel like I'm moving. I'm not going 10 miles an hour. Slips out. I'm standing there. Like it literally and slides sideways. And I'm still like, "Oh my God, this is Arthur's bike." And when it lays down, the blinker on it smashes into the ground and pops off, flings around like in 2 or 3 pieces. I scoop them up. I pick it up. I'm trembling. I drive. Oh, also the black, like the gas tank is scratched. I drive it all the way back home. I go and I buy high gloss black spray paint. I sand down the scratches. I tape the whole fucking thing off. I spray the whole thing with black lightly over and over and over again. And then I take the turning signal and I,
glue it back
together with super glue with just little bits and pieces of it. And I glue the whole thing back together. And I'm like, fuck, like it's good. It looks good. But if you really kind of look at it, you're like, oh shit, that's all cracked. And I'm like, oh fuck. I don't drive it again for the next 3 or 4 days. He comes back, pulls his car in. I got his bike sitting there. He pulls in. And I remember he gets out and he walks around his way. He says, hold on. We swap keys. He walks, hold on, let me check out my bike. And I'm like, he walks around the bike, and he's like, okay. I said, well, wait a minute. Let me take a look at the car here. Hold on. And I walk around the car, and I'm like, hey, what's this right here? He's like, no, that was there. I'm like, I don't know. And we're kind of like, he gets in his car, and he leaves. I say 4 or 5 days, maybe a week later, I get a phone call from, this is no cell phones. I get a phone call, and I answer. He's like, hey, bro, what's going on? I go, hey, man, what's going on? I'm still nervous. He's like, bro, you're not going to believe this. You're not fucking going to believe this. And I'm like, what? And he goes, I laid my bike down. Yeah, laid it down. I said, oh my God. He said, yeah, bro, it's totally scratched up. I go, which side? I was thinking I'm in the clear. And he never knew. And he laid it down on the left side of the bike. The whole thing, scratches fucked up. I went and looked at it. I said, I think I can fix this. I'm not sure. I have no experience fixing your bike. But I can spray paint it.
You must have been really good friends with the guy to care that much, right?
Oh yeah, bro. I don't want to, Want him to know I'm a fucking shitbag that dropped his bike and never said anything.
The bike that got paid by illicit Allstate money in the first place. That doesn't even come back up in the story once.
No, it's fine.
It's fine. What are some kosher industries that you think are really crime? Like something that, like in society, it's like, oh yeah, this is fine, and you're like, wait, this is not. This doesn't feel right, or is that too broad of a question?
I'm trying to think of I mean, I feel like
some people say that about law. Law is just
that's just a license to steal. It really is.
That's what people say.
Yeah,
Right?
it really is. I mean, it's horrible. It's horrible. The amount of money that is charged by these fucking lawyers is outrageous. And the amount of work that they put into it, sometimes it's like, wow, like it's, this is bad. It's.
There's checks and balances there, but what about
how many motions do you think are written by ChatGPT at this point?
You have to really know what you're doing to work with ChatGPT as a lawyer, but it's definitely made life easier for sure. What about like you're in a job interview or you're negotiating? How to win friends or influence people. Like that's too basic for you. What are some Matthew Cox tips to ace an interview or squeeze the most out of a negotiation?
Okay, can we go back to the law thing?
Yeah.
Because you know what I'm thinking about. It is the state. You know who makes more money than I think federal lawyers?
Tell me.
State lawyers that don't charge a lot, but so they'll go in. Like you'll get, let's say you're a state guy and you're constantly doing the state charges.
You're on the rotation to be like someone's attorney.
Right. Well, first of all, yeah, those guys, they don't make a lot, but they're also basically just trying to get you to plead guilty, right? Like they're not giving you good advice. Not all of them, but there are some of them. And I can't tell you how many inmates I spoke to where so when you talk to like 10 guys and it's the same exact thing with multiple lawyers, you think, boy, these fuckers. Where some guy who you hired an attorney, you paid him $5,000 to get rid of your
DUI.
Petty something. Well, no, let's say you're a drug dealer, some petty sales or distribution, whatever. In the state, it's minor. They get rid of it. It's a little bit of bud. Got rid of it or pled it out to 6 months, probation, whatever. And so, this is my guy. And then get another one. There's another thing. Boom, they get him 2 years probation, or maybe he goes away for 18 months and comes back. But a lot of these lawyers, they all know, like they'll go into a bad area or something, or lower middle class area, and they're dealing with these guys. They're just kind of negotiating pleas for them. What happens eventually, though, and this happens repeatedly, is that suddenly, Jamie or whatever gets busted and he comes to the guy and now he's in jail and, hey, go get my lawyer to come. And he comes and he sees the guy, you're in jail. He's like, yeah, man, I've got a bond. It's expensive, this and that. He's like, yeah. And the lawyer says, well, what happened? He's like, yeah, well, there was a drug task force, which they all have. And the drug task force came in and they came in and they busted me. And it was them, the FBI, the DEA, and the Drug Task Force. And the criminal defense attorney says, well, how much was seized? How much this? Was there a weapon involved? This, that. Oh, okay. And he's like, okay, he already knows it's going federal, right? Like there was a gun. It's multi-state. It's like he's heard all the things. And the DEA and the FBI were a part of it. It's already going federal. If it was below this, it goes state, depending on the county. But, so he already knows, oh, this is going federal. This guy's locked up right now, but it's going federal. And most likely he can check. He can make a call before he even sees you. It's federal. So they come in, and this happens over and over again, where they say, listen, I can take this, bro. I think I can beat this case. Yeah, because of this and this and this. Right, yeah. I can do it, but I need 15 grand. Man, 15. Yeah, bro, I need 15. So call your mom, call your people, call your boys, get me 15 grand. I can do it. But if it goes federal, I can't help you. I don't do federal. Like I don't know if it, but I mean, it'd have to be huge for it to be federal. Like, I mean, do you think?
All right. So there's some people cashing in on an arbitrage of information because they understand that.
And
I mean,
right,
that's-
so they
that-
get
yeah.
so they get 15 grand, and then he does nothing because he knows any day now it's going to go
getting
federal.
kicked.
It gets suddenly he gets all the charges dropped. The guy is walking out of charge. He's like, I'm walking out. Boom. DEA or U.S. Marshals grab him. He's been indicted by the feds.
Yeah, that's pretty
And
horrible.
the guy and that happens over and over again, where the defense attorneys are they're just taking money. Just taking
Isn't it interesting on a more broad level that attorneys, like, it's one thing in a civil case where it's like, hey, I'm suing you for a contract, 100 grand, let's negotiate it. Okay, 60, and then we settle. It's like when the attorneys that are negotiating like crimes, like pleading, it's like they're negotiating what crime happened. I mean, essentially.
Right.
And it's kind of interesting that that's even part of the system.
Well, but they're also it's like how much time is this guy going to get? Like that, I think that's a huge responsibility that I think they just kind of shrug off because they figure, this guy's a dirtbag. He's going away for 15 years. And you go, well, wait a minute. If you could get this dropped or argue this or argue that,
I don't think
you could
criminal
get him-
defense attorneys look at their clients like that. You don't get into that world.
You don't think that they think this? What does it matter if this guy goes to jail or not? He's a scumbag. I've represented
They
him
want
5
repeat-
times.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
You know,
How would you ace a negotiation? What are Matthew Cox's tips to ace a negotiation or an interview?
I don't.
You don't have anything?
I don't know that. I mean, I think
You can't teach what you're.
I don't do anything. I'm just I just tell you what you want to hear. That's what I think. What is it? Did we talk about this last time? Was it lusting? What was it? Remember lusting, the con man who had the was it the 10 rules of the con or something or 10?
We've talked about that.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if it was this episode or not, but yeah, we definitely went over those.
Where he had all these things. He said, you remain quiet and then you engage someone in their religion, and then whatever religion they are, you agree with them. Whatever their stance is, you agree. If you don't talk about politics, but if it does come up, agree with everything that the person says. Don't ever talk about, don't ever discuss sex, but if it comes up, agree with. Like, it was basically, he was like luring how to become agreeable to someone and con them into trusting you. And he has a whole list. Always look your best. Always look like you're rich. Always speak well and clearly. Don't ever gossip about other people. Like there were all these things, little rules that he had to make himself kind of a veneer of respectability and trust. And I think, there's different types of sales techniques. And I've never been a high pressure salesperson, right? Like, I'm not gonna, push someone like, you need to hire me, you need this, you need this, you need that. I don't like high pressure. To me, I would think it would just be more educational, like, where if you didn't have the answers, then you say, I really want to learn that. I've always been interested in that. That's something like, is that something that you think you could help me with? That sort of thing where you don't push. And then, once you've answered all the questions and you get up and leave and, call them back. Follow-up is huge. The other thing, like, nobody's not going to hire you because you called them back the next day, right? And I was going to say, this is something I always used to say with girls, which I used to always say, leave them laughing. Have you ever heard me say that?
Yeah.
Oh, he's heard me say that. Okay. Where I was like, if you talk to some girl you like and you joke with her, then, you're joking with her. If you get this, you could maybe talk to her for 30 minutes, but at the 10-minute mark, she's giggling and laughing and leave. Go. She's in the middle of the laughing. Say, hey, I love talking to you, but I got to get going. I got to go talk to my buddy. It was really great meeting you, and walk away. Because her last image of you is that guy had me laughing so hard. She's wanting more. She's interested. You don't want to play out that whole. You don't want to talk so long that I think also, in my opinion, you don't want to talk so long that the interviewer is basically trying to get you out of the. Does that make sense? Like, it'd be more like.
Is that my cue? Has this episode gone too long? I feel attacked personally here. What's your favorite heist or con movie?
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say it's the same point as ending a TikTok immediately after the climax. You don't say, and then he was arrested, and then he was in prison for 5 years, and he came out and he became a better person. You tell the whole story, and then right when he's caught, or right at the very climax, that's where you end it. You know what I mean? Because then people start clicking off. It's the same
Nice.
thought process.
Honestly, I always say that people will forgive you a murder if you can make them laugh. You know, same thing. You've heard that. Have you ever heard that guy say? I heard a TikToker one time say, maybe some psychiatrist or some fucking talk show, whatever. He's like, I've always said, if you can make a girl laugh, you can kiss them. And I was like, I absolutely believe that humor and joking around and being personable is probably more important than maybe checking all the boxes. The other thing I was going to say was enthusiasm. I think you got to be enthusiastic about jobs. You have to be enthusiastic. You have to be like super interested in this, wow, I mean, this is great. Like I always loved Chevy Novas. They're a great vehicle. It's it's always been underrated in my opinion. Like if you could try and be excited about whatever you're doing, even no matter how bad the product is,
Coming out of law school for me, I never. This is back to my privilege. I mean, I've had jobs, but it wasn't like a high stakes 5 interview process, like nothing remotely like that in my life. It was just, so I get into these situations where I don't understand. You have to feign complete excitement at every single monotonous thing they're telling you the job is part of. I was in this thing and someone with their dog was like, bring a dog to work day, dog. And I could almost like leave the interview to go pet the dog in the middle of the interview. Cause it was like, there's a dog. It's much more exciting than talking about transactional documents. Are you crazy? I did not get that job, Yeah, that feigning the enthusiasm is definitely.
Have you seen the one where there's like all these reels and TikToks and shorts where a woman walks in with her nails, having gotten her nails, and it says, this is how your wife wants you to react after she gets her nails done. She walks in and goes like this, and the guy's like, oh my, are you serious? Oh my, you got the French tips. I love the French tips. These are amazing. And then she's like, I know, right? He's like, oh, how much? How much? And she's like,
you need to get off of TikTok.
You
are on it for too long.
It's great because that's one of the things that's one of my problems. Like when my wife comes home, she's like, hey, and I'm like, hey, what's up? That's not the way to react. You need to be like, oh my gosh, baby, hey, how was your day? Fake it.
They teach you that in improv. That like everything the scene partner tells you has to be this like explosive reaction from you in some direction. Just give them something to work with.
Why did you take improv?
I took improv many times. It helps for trial.
I was just thinking, is this for trial?
Because you're in a situation, let's say like I pick a jury, and this happened to me more than once where you're picking a jury and then you tell them, someone just blurts it out like, I hate plaintiff's attorneys. They are scums. And that's me, right? I'm the plaintiff's attorney. And I go, well, thank you for being so honest. You have to react in a way that's big, authentic, find some angle that you can continue the connection, and just take everything as a gift. So in improv, everything's a gift from your scene partner. And so the jury and you are kind of playing out this scene. And you say that's a gift anyways, even if it's something that would on the surface seem negative.
What a great way to turn somebody around, though. They're insulting you, you give them a compliment. Say, I really appreciate you being honest about that.
Well, it really is a gift because that guy, you can get him out for cause without, you don't need to waste your strikes that you can, so it really is a gift. And then you can you're clocking, okay, that guy is nodding his head when he's talking. What about you? Oh yeah, my uncle had a small business. There you go, you're out too. And then, so it actually is a gift. Picking the jury is my favorite part of trial. I mean, that part's
probably it's super important. Got to be super important. Right?
It's everything. And you can talk to, I really believe in that Malcolm Gladwell book where Blink, where you can get a good feeling of someone with a high degree of, I mean, Malcolm Gladwell's a moron, but you can believe that you will get it right about 8 out of 10 times on a first impression, and he had a bunch of statistics about marriage counselors where the best ones were able to predict if they'll last or not, the couple, by like less and less information to still high degree of accuracy. I made the comment that he's a moron because he did this episode on Toyota about their sudden acceleration situation, and his position was blaming the drivers, which is what Toyota's position was, that it was the driver's input. In stressful situations, they were pushing the gas instead of the brake. It wasn't the car that was killing people in 2009 and 2010. And it's like either he was paid by Toyota, which would at least make sense, or he's a moron. So, yeah, because that's what's going on with this hydrogen car.
When we did our interview, did you did you end up getting any cases from that?
Oh, totally.
No, you did not. You didn't tell me.
Do
that.
I owe you money? I mean, I don't know exactly how. No one said, "Oh, I saw you on that program," but
well, then
definitely the
that
people.
doesn't count. Then-
Definitely the people that are my clients. You know, the hundreds of them. They were like so fired up by it. You know, so thanks for giving me the platform to talk about it. There were tons of people that have seen it. Forget who, some guy in Utah, we were talking to, a random vendor for a different project, kind of related to this, but some like, process server company, whatever. And he was like, yeah, isn't that the guy from that show in Florida? And I was like, wow, that's wild. So,
Nice.
Yeah, I got a couple of your wacky fans, one or two, just call me like, hey, I have this like MLM scheme that I'm a victim of. And I'm like, I cannot help you. I'm so sorry. I don't practice in Florida anyways, but yeah, you definitely have an engaged fan base, and it's an interesting thing that you built up. Are there any other people that are doing like what you're doing as someone that has your background of being in the can?
Yeah, like Ian Bick, right?
I always think Ian Bick and Johnny Mitchell.
Yeah, but I would say, and I'd say,
Is Ian Bick the bank robber?
no, he ran a Ponzi scheme when he was like a teenager, and what it very much was, he's taking money from one guy to pay off the other guy, because he got behind. He was doing concert promotions, not concert promotions, club promotions.
Yeah.
But they had people come in, like, big time rappers and stuff. And I think one or two rappers, like maybe somebody didn't show, and I think there was a couple snow-ins, and things that happened that he just couldn't account for. The problem is he borrowed this money, he spent the money, and so these people want their money back. So he starts getting more money for the next venue and paying these people, and then before you know it, it's like $1 million, and he ends up, going to prison. I think for how many? I don't know how many years. I don't know if he pled guilty or he went to. I think he went to trial. I think he got like 5 or 6 years, and it's funny too because he gets out. This is what I always felt like he got out, and then started a TikTok, and his TikTok blew up. And then he started a YouTube, and the YouTube did very well. It's blowing up. That's what I thought had happened. But when I went up and met him and interviewed him, I found out that he actually got out and went to work for like Whole Foods, and for like years, for like 4 years or 5 years, like I forget how long it was a long time. And then one day, one of his buddies was just telling him, "Bro, you got to talk. There's these guys." They do this thing, and you got to go. And so he's like, so he started putting up some TikToks, and it just blew up. And he's like, yeah. So I quit Whole Foods and went all in on this. And his platforms, it's actually like really doing well. He's very good at just talking in front of the camera. And Johnny Mitchell's kind of the same way. Johnny Mitchell's a guy who's got a platform. It's 1.4 million. I just did his podcast, and it's coming out on Sunday. And he's been here before. I've actually been on a show before, but we've interviewed him, and I'd have to say he's the biggest true crime. He focuses more on like drug smuggling because that's his
trade.
Yeah, that's what he went to prison for. So that's kind of that, and kind of the Mexican cartel and that sort of thing. He started off in California, and he blew up very quick, faster than anybody, because he's also a comedian, which he started doing while he was incarcerated. Like, that's pretty interesting. Got out, became a comedian, full-time comedian, but he's friends with all these kind of comedians. So most of these comedians are 1 or 2 phone calls away. So was able to get himself on these very big platforms. So it blew his channel up. And it drove me nuts too, because we were starting out for the first year or so, while he was blowing up, guys are leaving comments like, "Bro, I don't understand how Johnny Mitchell has 400,000 subscribers. He's been doing this a year. You've been doing this a year, and you only have 100,000. How come Johnny Mitchell's just hitting 1 million, and you've only got 400,000? And I was like, because I'm not Johnny Mitchell. You know what I'm saying? And I don't ever really get upset. And I'm just like, yo, bro, when you can get yourself on these other platforms, and I can't get them. And I was just like, what? Is this the jealousy? And I'm not I usually am thrilled for other people, but
don't ever envy anybody. They paid a price that you don't know about.
I know. And you know what's the worst thing about it is that's how I was like at first. And then I met Johnny Mitchell,
And he's just the nicest guy.
Fucking nicest guy, and he's so fucking charming.
Yeah.
And the only thing I would have to say that I despise him about is that he's literally 6'6",
Yeah, that's very bad.
and he's a hugger.
That's even worse.
So he's like, bro, what are you doing? He hugs me, and I'm like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, I'm not really a hugger. But before he can even say that, he's hugging. He'll give me a hug and pat me, and I feel like a child.
yeah.
I'm like
I don't even like dapping up a 6'6" guy.
It's ridiculous.
I'm like at his hip.
Listen, when I went, he hugged me 3 times. Twice when I got there, once when I left. I didn't want to be hugged.
Do you think it's a show? It's a show of dominance subtly, and that's also what gets to you. It's kind of a.
It feels like it either way. Whether he's doing it intentionally or not, it feels that way. I'm just like, I can't even, like, you have to be across the room for me to have a conversation with him. He's so tall. Because I'm like, right. And then what do you think? Okay, we could talk about that. And then I just feel like a small child. Anyway, but he's super funny and very personable.
While you're in prison, you meet one of two of the two.
Are you upset about losing the election in Ireland?
Yes. I can't do an Irish accent.
Sorry, go ahead. Well, I was like, go ahead. Sorry.
While you were locked up, and you're just so Floridian for that comment. Like anyone that remotely just resembles something out of the States, you just like.
You could, I'm telling you, if you got on the juice and got some tattoos, you could definitely pull off. Is it McGregor? Wait,
Conor McGregor.
Connor. I want to say Colin.
Yeah.
Conor McGregor. Definitely. That's
So-
a compliment. You don't think that's a compliment?
I don't think
mean,
I
you're
look
more
anything like
no,
him at
you've got
all.
more of a baby face than he does. But
See, there you go. You tell people what they want to hear. So you're in prison with one of two of the war dogs. And
One, yes.
One of two. That's what I said.
Yeah.
And Ephraim Deveroli.
yes,
And you become friends with the guy. And at this point, your writing career had
You're
kicked
already
off.
wrong.
I'm already wrong. You didn't become friends with the guy. You don't want to take that route of saying that. He became friends with you.
you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say he actually, at the time, I would say, yes, we were friends. He definitely conned me into thinking we were friends. So, yeah, you're right. I would say at that time, I thought we were friends, yes.
And then what happened?
No, I was just in line. I was in line one. You want me to tell you how I met him or what?
Yeah.
Oh.
How'd you meet
No,
him? And,
I was in line one
and
day.
where did this friendship go?
So there was a guy named, Christopher Doyle. And Christopher Doyle was, he was in the unit one day. He was in my housing unit. And he said, hey, bro, you ought to check this article out. And he gives me an article called Arms and the Dudes. And so I read it, and it's about these two guys. It's about Ephraim Deveroli and David Packhouse, and they were a couple of two Jewish stoners in Miami who were selling arms to the U.S. government for the Afghan security forces. So the U.S. government's getting contracts and buying military armament from these two stoners who are like 19 and 22 years old in Afghanistan. I mean in Miami, and all they're doing is making phone calls to some of the old Soviet bloc former Soviet bloc countries who are trying to kind of switch over to NATO. NATO armaments, and so they've got all this excess arms that they're selling, and the U.S. government's funding this project, and so they're just calling around trying to get like, hey, cheap ammunition, cheap AK-47s, cheap whatever, and they're filling different task orders because they had ended up winning a $300 million contract. It was actually $298, but whatever, $300 million contract. To supply arms, and absolutely were not they were not really, they shouldn't have been doing this. Like they shouldn't have passed all the tests and everything, but they did. It was Deveroli, and he was able to manipulate his way into getting the contract, and he gets the contract, and they're supplying it, and they're actually doing very well supplying everything, and then eventually they supply, part of their supply was Chinese ammunition. That Chinese ammunition was purchased from Albania Albania had been gifted it. Albania sells it to Deveroli's company, and they ship it to Afghanistan, and they use that. It's 7.62 rounds. They use it, and that was it. So, but what ends up happening is that the military investigators raid Deveroli's office because another one of his competitors says that Deveroli is stamping AK-47s, saying they were made in Turkey, when in fact they were made in China. Like complete fabrication. But you have to understand, all of these arms dealers hate each other. So some guy calls in a tip, they get a fucking contract, and they raid his office. Now they don't find that's a complete lie. It's not true about the AK-47s, but they end up finding out that he's been shipping Chinese ammunition and lying about it. He's saying it's Albanian ammunition. And the way I've always felt is that and this is what happened. He knew he shouldn't be shipping Chinese ammunition because of Tiananmen Square. There's an embargo on Chinese munitions, but he knew it was from China and he was shipping it anyway. And in my opinion, he was within his rights to do that, and I think legally he was too. But what happened was he lied about it, and by lying about it and hiding it from the government, he kind of created a conspiracy to defraud the United States government. He did defraud them out of, I want to say it was they calculated it at $142,000, which Deveroli paid immediately. But he got indicted, and he pleads guilty. David Packouz also pleads guilty, and so does another guy, Alex Pedrovsky. They all plead guilty. Pedrovsky and David Packouz agree to work with the government, explain it. They go in, they just tell, this is what happened, right? We didn't really do anything wrong. It's not. They don't really know how much that they're in trouble. Like they do, but it's not that big of a deal. And it really wasn't that big of a deal. So they go in and just explain. The problem is Deveroli doesn't want to explain. Deveroli at the time is a drug addict, and I mean he's doing blow. He's a serious drug addict at the time, and I think that was always downplayed, and it was always shifted that he was more of a stoner. But I mean, I talked to Deveroli when I was like, so you guys, get stoned? He's like, yeah, but he said, be honest, I'm more of a cokehead. And he's semi-honest. At times he would be extremely honest. Anyway, what happens is
semi-honest.
Some things he would be very honest, and other things he would be very upset about. Things that I felt like it's pretty clear this is true, but he would be upset about it. One of the things he was always upset was that Guy Lawson, the guy that wrote the article in Rolling Stone magazine, Guy Lawson had referred to him, had basically, I guess, it basically said he was greedy. At some point, he said he was like a greedy psychopath or something along those lines. And Deveroli is always upset about that. Well, yeah, he fucking describes me as like a greedy psychopath or something. I was always like, or greedy scumbag. It's like a greedy scumbag or something. And I was thinking, and like, is this not true? Like it's pretty obvious. Everybody that if 5 people describe you as a fucking liar, I mean, you're gonna have to kind of kick back and say, I'm probably a liar. Like that many people that know you and say the same thing about you independently. You kind of got to think about that. So anyway, the point is that everybody needs a good pair of jeans. What I like about the Perfect Jean is that the moment you put them on, they feel like sweatpants. They don't ever pinch or bind up. As a matter of fact, they're super stretchy. There's never any point where you feel like they're binding up on you or they're tight or they pinch you or anything like that. They're comfortable in pretty much any position that you sit in. They're really great. They're comfortable and they look great. And the best part is our listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping at theperfectjeans.nyc or Google The Perfect Jeans and use promo code COX15 for 15% off. Normally, a good pair of jeans costs anywhere between $150 to $200, but The Perfect Jeans are reasonably priced at $79.99. For a limited time, our listeners get 15% off their first order plus free shipping at theperfectgene.nyc and use promo code COX15 for 15% off. That's 15% off for new customers at theperfectgene.nyc with promo code COX15. Please support our channel and tell them we sent you. F your khakis. Get the perfect gene. He ends up going to jail. Packows and Podrofsky do not go to jail. They get house arrest. But Deveroli, he was going to get house arrest too, by the way. Once again, the fraud is $142,000. It's not a lot. But the problem is while he was out on bond, he ends up getting set up by the ATF. They lure him out of the jurisdiction, which he vehemently tries not to leave the jurisdiction. And he explains to the guy on the phone over and over again, which he doesn't know is the ATF. He explains over and over again, I don't want to leave the jurisdiction. You don't understand. He's very honest with everybody involved. Like, I'm on an ankle monitor. Now the ankle monitor didn't track everywhere he went. It just said you have to be home at this time. So you have to be next to the device at this time. So he would argue. So he argued with the guy. The guy was like, bro, what does it matter? We're literally talking about 15 miles outside in this. What are you doing? This is a multi-million-dollar deal. He's trying to get him to come and meet somebody. So he goes, okay. And he meets him outside of the jurisdiction. And he tells him we're going to go shooting. And Deveroli says over and over again, I can't go shooting with you. You don't understand. I pled guilty. I'm a felon. Haven't been sentenced yet, but I'm not allowed to have a gun. And the guy goes, bro, come on, just what the fuck are you? So Deveroli at some point, he's just like, all right, bro, all right, cool. Yeah, we'll go shooting. Genuinely thinking to himself, like, I'm not going to go shooting. I'm show up. He shows up and the guy goes, yo, bro, the guy opens his trunk and he's like, shows him like an AR-15. He shows him a bunch of weapons. He's like, yeah, this is what I brought. And he looks at Deveroli and he's got a Glock and he puts the Glock down and boom, slaps it right in Deveroli's hands. And Deveroli's like, I just held it. I held it and I looked at it. He kind of chambers it, checks the chamber, does the whole thing that, these gun guys do. Yeah, it's a nice piece, bro. Hands it back to him. And he's like, but, like, I can't go. And these guys like, look, I brought all the weapons. At least you can do is go get the ammunition. And he's like, I'm still not planning on shooting. And he says, but what I decide to do is I go, I'm like, yeah, but I can buy the munitions. I'll go buy the. And he says, I can't buy the munitions, but I'll have one of my guy buy it, the ammo, right? So he drives to Walmart, gives his guy a bunch of cash to buy a bunch of ammunition, sits there with him, get there 5 boxes of this, 10 of those. They fill up a shopping cart. They buy a couple $1,000s worth. They bring it back. They load it in to the trunk. They drive back to the meeting spot. Boom. The ATF pull in. They yank him out of the car, throw him on the fucking ground, handcuff him, and yeah, motherfucker, yeah, we got you now. And the reason the ATF was so upset with him was because the New York Times has written an article when they were talking about these 2 stoner kids that are making millions selling to the security forces for Afghanistan. While they mention it, they say that all of the munitions were from 40-year corroded stockpiles of aged munitions. So they make it sound like it's bad ammunition. But the truth is, all the ammunition worked. None of it.
They used it and none of it broke the guns, right?
It was right. It all worked.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just the New York Times making it sound more nefarious and than it was. Mm-hmm. And it actually wasn't that at all. What he was completing the tasks. The ammunition worked. And the only real issue was that the Chinese ammunition, that the ammunition that it was being shipped from Albania had been gifted to them from China. The first few shipments were all Albanian, but they ran out of it and they started shipping the Chinese, and then they hid that from the government. Mm-hmm. That's it. I mean, but Deveroli, because he got arrested again for having a weapon, he ends up pleading and they give him 6 years. So he goes to prison and he shows up, and I had just read his article a week earlier, and I am standing in the chow hall line with Doyle, and Doyle says, hey, bro, you know that the Rolling Stone article about those guys with the gun kids? And I'm like, yeah. He goes, that's him right there. He got here yesterday. And I'm like, what? He's like, that's him right there. And the pictures of Deveroli, he was a fat kid. He's all fat. But I looked at him and I was like, that's him? He's like, yeah. He's like, he lost some weight. What ended up happening was Deveroli's always kind of been a semi-thin guy up until he got on house arrest, and then he blew up. And those were the photos that were taken. So whenever you see Jonah Hill doesn't really look like Deveroli. He's not overweight. He's actually a thin kind of a kid, the way he always described it to me. Anyway, so I see him and I'm like, oh, wow. Was just wrapping up writing my article or my own memoir. And so I go to Deveroli, and actually Doyle's the one who suggested you should talk to him about writing your book, or about writing his book or a book. I go, oh, yeah. So I go and I find him on the rec yard probably the next day, and I walk up to him. I go, hey, man, I said, you're Ephraim Deveroli, right? And he goes, all right, listen, he's super paranoid. Yeah, why? What's up? And I'm like, my name's Matt Cox. I said, I write true crime books. I said, well, I didn't say it. I said, I write. I'm a writer. I'm just finishing mine. And I said, I've been thinking about writing, true crime books and stuff like that. I said, I was wondering if you've written a memoir. And I said, because I'm finishing my memoir now. I was actually in revisions. And he was like, no, why? And I said, because I read the Rolling Stone article on you. And I explained, I just heard it, you were here. And I was wondering if you were writing one. And he was like, no. He's like, bro, I'm bipolar. He's like, I couldn't pay attention long enough to. He's I'm ADHD and bipolar. I don't think I could pay attention long enough to write a fucking thing. And he kind of laughed. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, if you think about doing it, let me know. I'd be happy to help you. And he's like, why would you do that? And I went, I said, I'd be happy to help, like, write an outline or something, Why would you do that? I went, well, I said, I don't know about you, but I said, I got a lot of time. I need a lot of time here. I'm going to be here a while. This is kind of like I want to help people do. I want to start doing that. He's like, oh, okay. Yeah, I'll let you know. So some time goes by. And I said, yeah. He said, yeah, let me think about it. I'll get back with you. I said, okay. So like for the next month or so, we would pass each other walking like from the rec yard or to the library, whatever, on the compound. Because these places are located in different parts of the compound. So you're constantly kind of crossing paths with people. So I'd be walking by him and I look up and see him and he'd be like, hey, I'm still thinking about it, bro. Still thinking about it. And then it become almost funny, right? After a month or two, I'd look up, I'd go, and he'd be like, bro, give me a little bit more time, a little more, just ha, okay. But, by this point, I've also kind of realized he's kind of a douchebag. And then one day I'm walking and he stops me and he goes, hey. And I go, yeah, what's up? He said, bro, you know the Rolling Stone article? And I was like, yeah. And he said, and keep in mind, the Rolling Stone article was written by Guy Lawson. But Guy Lawson didn't speak with Deveroli. Guy Lawson spoke with David Packhouse. The article's written from David Packhouse's perspective. So Deveroli, as we're walking, he says, hey, man, that Rolling Stone article about me? I'm like, right. He's like, yeah, bro. He's like, it just got optioned. I said, really? He said, yeah. He said, by Bradley Cooper. Yeah. Warner Brother, or New Line Cinema, or Bradley. Let's just say Warner. He's like, yeah, by Bradley Cooper. Warner Brothers just interviewed it. Because it was Warner is like New Line Cinema or whatever is underneath the umbrella of whatever Warner. So he goes, by Warner Brothers. And I'm like, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay. He said, you know who Bradley Cooper is? He said, Bradley Cooper. I was like, yeah. He was like, Bradley Cooper, and I forget the other guy. Todd Phillips. He said, Todd Phillips. He said, you know who Todd Phillips is? And I go, no. He goes, Todd Phillips is the guy that did the Hangover movies. And I said, wow. And he's like, yeah, bro, pretty cool, right? They're going to make a movie about me. And I said, you seem like a smart guy, bro. He's, yeah? And I said, you're excited because Todd Phillips is making a movie about you. I said, you do understand. I said, have you seen the Hangover movies, right? He's like, yeah. And I said, like, they're comedies. They're kind of dark comedies. I'm like, they're going to make your life a joke. This is going to be a comedy. I said, this is going to end up being Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I said, you're going to be synonymous with like Jeff Spicoli. I think his name's Jeff Spicoli. With like Jeff Spicoli. And I said, I mean, they're going to name it something like, dude, where's my hand grenade? I go, you're going to be a joke. I mean, you have to get out of here and go back to being a fucking, like a entrepreneur or a whatever, a business owner, right? I mean, said, your name, you're going to say, hey, my name's Ephraim Deveroli. And people are going to be like, oh, like that fucking idiot. And dude, where's my hand grenade? Like you're going to be a joke. I was like, all because you don't want to write an outline and have a memoir written to give your side of the story. I said, that movie should be being made based on your story. And he was like, I go, not David Packhouse's. And because remember he had told me he didn't like the fact that they had basically portrayed him as a greedy piece of garbage. And I was like, I mean, you're going to be like a greedy piece of garbage in this thing. And he was like, fuck. He said, yo, bro, when can we meet? I want to talk to you. I want to meet. When can we meet? I said, oh, well, I said, I don't know. So we ended up, he said, yeah, I want to meet like tonight or tomorrow. Like, we ended up meeting like a week or two. We met and then I didn't start writing for like a month. But when I started writing his outline, we had just a kind of an agreement when I wrote his outline. And so I write this really, really, like, it's like an 80-page outline of his story. So I knew it really well. And once I'd written the outline, which of course is really nothing like the movie, War Dogs. So we write this outline. I put him in touch with a guy named Ross Reback, was my literary agent at the time. And so, Ross is used to coming to the prison, talks to me on the phone, puts money on my books to write and rewrite and stuff. And so anyway, I introduce him. I tell Ross, listen, do you know who this guy is? I explain it to him. He looks it up. He comes back. He goes, I'd love to meet him. I said, oh, that's great. I arrange a time for them to meet. But by the time they arrange a time to meet, what ends up happening is really, and it's Ross that is coming to meet me. Deveroli's family is coming to meet him. Because Ross can't get on Deveroli's his visitation agreement. His visitation list. Because to get on a federal inmate's visitation list, you have to have had a previous relationship with them. He didn't. So he was already on mine because the first time Ross came to see me, he came with my brother-in-law, who's a lawyer. So he was able to get on the list. He couldn't do that with Deveroli. So he had to come see me. Deveroli's family comes to see him. So we'll all be in the visitation room together. So every time that they had a meeting, I was there. So what happens is, in the meantime, just before Ross comes, Deveroli says to me, can I read your memoir? And I just kind of was finishing it up, right? I was like, sure. So I give him the manuscript. Like 3 days later, he gives it back to me. He's like, bro, will you write my book? And I went, bro, you can get a professional writer on the street. Like the whole thing was to get an outline and send it to somebody on the street. I go, you can get a professional writer. Like I knew there were guys on the street that wanted to write his story. And I was like, you can get a professional writer. And he's like, bro, you are a professional writer. I was like, no, I mean like somebody who's accomplished, who's got, a name. He's like, no, bro. He's like, plus it's going to be a memoir, so it's from me. And I was like, right. He said, bro, you don't understand. He goes, this is the best thing I've ever read. He was talking about my manuscript. And in all fairness,
it was the best thing he ever read.
He'd read all of about 3 books in his life. And he later told me, he's like, I'm more of a magazine guy. Like I can't pay attention that long. But he did read the whole book because he could tell me. I was like, did you really read it? He's like, bro. And he started naming off different things. And I asked him questions. So he did read it.
You cannot make fun of him. You get your information from TikTok. Continue.
So I read the whole thing. He read the whole thing. He liked it. He and I negotiate an agreement. And he ends up having a lawyer come in. She writes up the agreement. I sign the agreement. So the agreement aside, by the time all of this is happening, or while this is happening, Deveroli and Ross meet. And we have a conversation. We all have a big conversation. They meet. It's not a long conversation, the first meeting. They just meet. But Deborah definitely likes Ross. And so what happens is after that meeting, Deborah comes back. They have another meeting where I'm at. And I'm finishing, this is months later. Deborah's now on the pack out list to be moved to Miami. And I'm only about halfway, maybe halfway through with the book. And Ross is like, listen, you need to finish this as soon as possible. I'm like, okay, I'm working on it. So Deborah ends up talking to Ross, and he's like, listen, what do you think the chances are we get this thing turned into a movie? At that time, they were still in kind of negotiating with Jonah Hill to play Deborah. So they're in negotiations. Jonah Hill rejected the first screenplay because there wasn't enough of Deborah in it. And so they go back, they're kind of doing rewrites. Even if they do rewrites, there's no guarantee the movie gets made. Hollywood, lots of times you write a screenplay over and over again. You attach a big name celebrity. It goes on for years and years and years. It took something like 10 years to get The Wolf of Wall Street made. And Leonardo DiCaprio was signed on the whole time. I want to play this guy. I want to play this guy. It just took forever. So what Ross is hoping for is Ross is saying, look, I think we can get the book published and sell the life rights and get a movie made before they can get their shit put together. Because if as soon as Matt finishes this thing, I'm going to get it published. And he's in negotiations already, negotiating with publishers. So what happens is Ross says to me, you need to finish this book as quickly as possible. I say, okay. I'm like, well, you understand that he's leaving. He's leaving soon. And at this point, he's talking to his sister. So he's kind of bouncing between us. And he's like, I'm like, he's leaving soon. Like it literally in a few weeks, he's going to be on a trial. Like I'm halfway done. And I'm like, I do have the outline. And Ross is like, I'm like, but I don't know that that's going to be enough to finish the whole fucking book. And I'm trying to tell Ross, like, I can ask you questions and you can email him and send it back. And I'm trying to come up with a way to communicate. I can send stuff to his sister. And so what ends up happening is Ross is like, listen, and I had sent Ross a book, which was called, a book I wrote called Stranger Danger. And in Stranger Danger, the name of the protagonist is Christopher Doyle, the same guy I was in line with when I met he pointed out Deborah. And Christopher Doyle is a white trash entrepreneur that eventually he ends up renting out a bunch of double wides and stuff. He ends up building all of these complexes to house the nation's offenders. And it's just a really depraved, disgusting, satiric fiction book filled with all kinds of horrific, funny, sexual deviant stories, everything. And eventually Doyle ends up being framed for being an offender and goes to prison. But there's but there's these elements that are similar to Deborah's story, where Doyle and his mother have an adversarial relationship. There's all these things. And so Ross suggests, or I suggest, one of us, I'm like, I could take some of the stories from this book and stick it in Deborah's because there are some similarities. I said, that would fill up 10, 20,000 words. Like I could fill up a lot of words. You only need like 80,000 words. Really only need 40 or 50 now, but back then, let's say 70, 80,000 words for a book. So I tell him that, and he goes, do it. He said, it needs to be done as quickly as possible so we can get it published. And I'm like, okay. Deborah comes over, and we're talking about this. Deborah's there. Deborah's like, fill it up, fix it, do it. Okay. So let's just get it done, get something out there. Okay. And Deborah's like, I'll read it, I'll check it, make sure everything's okay. Okay, no problem. So as we're talking, I'm like, okay, so you think we can get – so Deborah was like, what do you think the chances are you can get this turned into a book or into a movie? And he's like, I think it's good, but it doesn't really matter. It's like, because if we can't, he's like, Deborah was like, what if you don't get it turned into a movie? And Ross says, if I don't get it turned into a movie, will just sue Warner Brothers for theft of intellectual property. I'm halfway through the book. And I was like, and they're kind of talking. I'm just listening. And I went, well, wait a minute. I said, I haven't finished the book yet. He's like, yeah, but you will. That's why he's like, we need it finished as quick as possible. And I go, for what? He goes, so that I can get it published. Just in case Warner Brothers ends up making this movie. Because if they make the movie, we can sue them. And I'm like, yeah, but they didn't steal anything. And he says, listen, there's all kinds of competing projects out there. He said, all we have to do is allege that they stole the book, and we can sue them. Deveroli says, Deveroli, you can see he loves it. He loves it. Like the way I love it when I talk about fraud with somebody, I just get so excited. And he was like, he said, yo, you know what? He goes, I got a cousin. He's kind of a schmuck. And he kind of, and he starts laughing. He doesn't laugh like Jonah Hill, but he does have a crazy laugh. It's actually like, it's more of a, and he kind of like leans in and laughs. It's actually pretty funny. So he says, I got a cousin. He's kind of a schmuck. He said, he's in the industry out in L.A. He goes, well, he thinks he's in the fucking industry. He goes, but he does know a bunch of people. I'm sure, he goes, if we can get the manuscript, he goes, I'll bet you my cousin can get the manuscript into somebody's hands that's connected to Warner Brothers. Well, first what he's saying is he thinks he can get it connected to somebody who might make a documentary. But he's also saying that somebody that's connected, connected with Warner. Warner's massive. They're connected to somebody's connected to somebody. You're at least 3 people away from somebody that knows somebody at Warner Brothers, So, was it the 7 levels?
Degrees from bacon.
Degrees from bacon, yeah. So, they had this little discussion. Okay, fine. I'm still thinking documentary. I heard documentary, really. So, Ross says finish the book as quick as possible. Okay, fine. I leave. Later, I'm on the phone with Ross. I finished the book, by the way. So, I'm sorry. Deveroli leaves. He goes to Miami. And this is the part, like, as we are talking, I remember he would tell me stuff. He'd be like, okay, look, I'm going to tell you this. I'm not proud of this, though, okay? And I was like, yeah, okay. Like, and I'll never forget the time he gave me the transcripts. I was like, I need your transcript for your sentencing. And I remember he hands me the transcripts, and I grab them, and he doesn't let go of them. Like, there's that moment where we're both kind of tugging on it. And I look at him. He goes, "Listen, bro, you're going to read some shit that I'm not proud of." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "Okay." And I give them to him. And I looked at it, I looked at him. I said, "Listen, I promise you, nothing I'm going to read is going to lower my opinion of you." And he just he's like, "All right, douchebag," So, and I remember I read the transcripts. In the transcript, they play a tape where he's talking to his father, and he's trying to cooperate against a Chinese national who's selling selling AK-47s. And was trying to sell AK-47s, was trying to get Deveroli to provide him with AK-47s that he was going to sell to FARC. And Deveroli wouldn't do it. And he was trying to get his dad to call this guy and tell him he would sell him the AK-47s and to FARC. And he was going to he wanted him to work with the ATF. And his dad's arguing, "Oh, no, Ephraim, this man, he could go to jail for the rest of his life. It's not right. It's not right what you're asking me to do." And Deveroli's just fucking leaning in on him. I mean, do you understand that if one chicken leaves the hen house, another one has to take its place? I explained this to you. I mean, he talks to his dad like he's a dog. So, and then there's another thing where Deveroli's talking to another inmate and is telling the other inmate he's trying to get him to kill one of them.
Well, he's on cocaine and he's in terribly pressured situations.
No, he's in prison. At this point, he's in the U.S. Marshals holdover. But he's talked to another inmate and trying to get him, telling him, I can pay you if you can have somebody killed. And then he's on the phone with, I believe, the FBI or DEA, somebody. He's on with the authorities telling him there's an inmate that came up, approached me about having some of my co-defendants murdered. But really, it's Deborah Rowley going to him. They're both, and then, by the way, when Deborah Rowley's on the phone, the other guy's on the phone. They're both like, he's like, nah, this guy's trying to get me to kill somebody. Deborah Rowley's on the phone saying, this guy's saying he's telling me he can have somebody killed. They're both got, he's desperate. I'm not judging him. Trust me. I'll cut everybody's fucking throat to get out of prison. There's no hold bar. I leave no victim. I mean, they're all victims. So, but it was so fun. That's what I read that he was so concerned with. Because they put the law enforcement agent on the stand. He talks about it. And so I read it, and I'm just laughing about it. Deborah Rowley's one of those guys who's like, these fucking snitches, but then he gets caught and he snitches immediately. So the point is that when Deborah Rowley's leaving, I'm still working on the book. I'm probably 2/3 of the way finished. And Deborah Rowley's leaving. I remember when he leaves, he comes up to me and he says, listen, bro, he said, I'm going to tell you something. He said, I don't get close with a lot of people. But he said, you know more about me than my own family. I'm like, okay. And he said, I don't leave my friends behind. He said, I promise you, when you walk out those front gates, he said, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to be there for you the whole time you're here, and I'm going to be waiting for you when you get out. Because at this point, I still have like 20 years to go. You understand? I got a long time, long sentence. And I'm like, and he said, I consider you a friend. And his eyes fill up with tears, and he gives me this big, big bear hug. He's a good-sized guy. He's probably 5'10", 5'11". That's big to me. So he gives me a big hug. It's not a Johnny Mitchell hug, but it's a big hug. And he walks off, and I remember thinking, wow. And I specifically remember this moment because the next day, I have a friend whose name is, we called him Turk. His name is Shannon Siegel. Shannon, we were sitting at lunch, and he says, oh, I saw Deborah Rowley packed out this morning, right? So he left they leave in the morning. He goes, he packed out this morning. I said, yeah. He said, never see that. He said, bet you'll never see that guy again. And I go, I disagree. I said, I'll bet you. I said, I think that when I leave these gates, I'm going to see him again. I said, I think that he's a better person than you think he is. Because he just thought he was a scumbag. Everybody thought he was a scumbag. And I think he's a better person than you think he is. Part of the reason I remember the conversation with Turk is because like he got me, bro. Like I believed him. Mm-hmm. I thought this is.
He probably meant it in the moment.
That's what I like to think that he did. He maybe meant it in the moment. He was just working me. So anyway, the point is that he leaves. I finished the book.
Well, you could relate to that, I'm sure.
Yeah, sure.
Where you bring yourself to a place.
Yeah, I mean, I can convince myself of pretty much anything. So I finished the book. I sent it to Ross. Ross, it's funny too because I remember Ross when I gave him my book. The amount of notes and corrections and you have to change this, you have to write more on this, he just trashed it. And with Deborah Rowley's book, he literally sent it back, and I mean, there's maybe a few corrections, and he wanted me to correct where I talked about the prison, and I make it sound like it's a joke, and he wanted me to make it sound like it was a hellhole. He wanted me to change that, so I changed it. That was really it. It was amazing. He was like, listen, he said, you fucking hit this out of the park. He's like, you have come so far as a writer from your book. But it's very hard, I like to say, it's very hard to write a book about yourself because you do not see yourself as other people see you. So I did not see myself the way others see me. And so my book needed a lot of revisions. Mm. And anyway, so I revised it. I sent it to Ross. It's ready to go. He sends it to a professional editor. That editor edits it. And it's, they polish it. And I thought it was a great book when it was done. Albeit for a few parts of it that were not exactly accurate. The spirit of the relationship between Deveroli and his mother and some of the sexual exploits were embellished, fabricated. But overall, it was a good book. So, and it was a better depiction of his life than War Dogs. Anyway, the point is that these guys are ready to go, bro. They're ready to go. He's in negotiations. Ross is in negotiations with oh shit, what is it? Simon and Schuster. Penguin, Simon and Schuster. He's talking to CNN wants to do a documentary on him, and they're agreeing in the documentary that a big portion of the documentary will be about how he was writing his memoir in prison with another inmate, Matt Cox, and that they would run commercials throughout about the book. Now this fucking asshole's trying to get them to pay him. Give me $200,000. The fucking advertisements to pay him. What are you doing? And they could have a documentary out immediately. About the same time this whole thing's happening, they greenlight War Dogs, it's Arms and the Dudes, but they change it to War Dogs. They changed the name War Dogs. They didn't like Arms and Dudes, so they changed it to War Dogs. Okay, that's fine. So obviously they've rewritten the screenplay supposedly several times. And that information, some of this information I was getting from Ross. So Deveroli contacts Ross, and Ross tells me on the phone he talked to Deveroli's cousin. Deveroli's cousin knows a guy that is a producer with some production company that made the documentary Blackfish, which was a huge documentary. Turns out it's really just his mom made it, and he works there. And he is friends with a guy named Shimmy, which is something Shapiro. I don't know what Shimmy's first name is. I forget. It's in the book. But let's say Shimmy. So Shimmy, and Ross tells me this on the phone. He's like, Shimmy and the Blackfish guy they're good friends, and they make documentaries. Deveroli's cousin knows them. He talked to them about the film or about Deveroli's book. They want to make a documentary about it. And he said, and Shimmy is the son of the president of Warner Brothers. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So you think, and I'm on the inmate phone, guys are screaming around me, and I'm like, so you think he can go to his dad and give him the manuscript, like see if they'll use the manuscript, our manuscript, instead of using the article in Rolling Stone, right? Like, fuck you, Lawson. And I'm like, right, and he's like, no, not really. But it opens up other possibilities. Okay. I'm just he's like, and of course this shifts to, and Simon and Schuster is going to make an offer, and blah, blah, blah. And we were working with this company, and blah, they're talking to, what's the guy that, Corbin, the guy who did Cowboys? They have to go to Brian, I don't know, whatever his name is, Corbin. He's in Miami. They're talking to Corbin about possibly making a documentary. They fly down there to meet with Corbin. Deveroli had already met with Corbin. He basically laughed him out of the fucking room because Deveroli was like, "Yeah, here's what we're gonna do. You're gonna pay me this much," and then they're just like, "Like this is fucking clown." And so so of course, Ross goes back and has a conversation with them. They have all these conversations with CNN, everything, and they're talking about all this stuff. But it's all like they're trying to get money. It's like, you're not gonna get any money for a documentary. The CNN's willing to run ads. That's going to sell a ton of fucking books. If you're talking about writing the book and what really happened, your real story, and you're getting ads, you're going to sell a ton of books. You just have to get the book published. They go back and forth, and so I'm getting phone calls, or I'm calling every couple of weeks and getting updates, and then and Deveroli for some reason isn't responding to me. Like, I'll email his sister or Ross, and Ross sends stuff, and he comes back and he says, and I'm like, why isn't Deveroli responding to me? He's like, yeah. He said, so Ross came to see me one day, and he said, he just said he can't talk to you right now. And he said, but you'd understand. I go, no, well, I don't understand. Keep in mind, he was locked up. That made sense. But then he got out. And why aren't you communicating with me now? And then one day, while all of this is kind of going on, I just stopped getting emails from Ross. And I call him, and he stops answering the phone. I don't hear anything. And okay, well, that goes on for weeks. It turns into months. 6 months later, I don't know what's happening. I do know that the last time we talked, I was irritated because all he was talking about was how he was going to sue Warner Brothers, because by that point they're about to start shooting the movie, and he's talking about here's what he said towards the last phone call is we're gonna sue Warner Brothers. And I'm like, well, what about the book? And he's telling me, well, we're still working on that and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. But it doesn't sound like it. And so for several phone calls, all I hear is this lawsuit. They're going to sue Warner Brothers, Todd Phillips, everybody. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I keep saying, I'm like, what about the book? What about the documentary CNN? What about this? Like, they stopped pursuing all of that. And he's like, yeah, we're going to, then it became, so that's what's going on back and forth. And all he wants to talk about that. I'm like, why are you suing Warner Brothers? And he tells me that, he said, here's the thing. He said, the other day I was talking to the Blackfish guy, not Shimmy. He's talking to the Blackfish guy on the phone. And he said, I'm talking to him, and he says, hey, so, what are we doing? Because these guys were also trying to shop the manuscript. And he's like, what are you doing? What's going on? He says, yeah, man, I don't think we're going to be able to shop or get a buyer for the manuscript. We can still do the documentary, but not get a feature film made. Or there was that, or a series. Series were big back then. And he's like, why do you think that? And he says, well, because it turns out Jonah Hill signed on, and they're greenlighting the project. And he said, well, they hadn't done it yet, but they were going to, is what he said. He said, well, how do you know this? Oh, he said, Shimmy, my partner Shimmy, is the son of the president of Warner Brothers. And Ross says, what? He goes, yeah. He said, I didn't know that. What are you talking about? Yeah, he's the son of the water. I didn't tell you. He said, no, I've never heard that. I would have never given you the manuscript if I had known that Shimmy was the son of the president of Warner Brothers. I mean, what have you guys done? And now suddenly they're going to greenlight the project? And he's like, well, it wasn't my responsibility to tell you. He's like, no, and Ross hangs up the phone. So Ross is telling me about this conversation on the phone, but I'm listening to him tell me that, and I'm thinking, like, he was like, can you believe that? And he's acting offended by the fact that
he was ill-informed.
He was ill-informed, but the truth is, 6 months earlier, or 3 months, more like 3 months, 3 months earlier, Ross had already told me this. He already told me that Shimmy was the son of the president of Warner Brothers. Like, I already know this is true. Now, keep in mind, Warner Brothers is going to know, everybody involved in Warner Brothers at some point, especially the president, is going to know about this project. Warner Brothers makes, at that time, they're making 4, maybe 6 movies a year. So, and they're dumping $40 million, $60 million in these projects. Like, this is there's no way he doesn't know about the project. So, the point is that it makes sense that Ross would be offended, but it doesn't make sense that he's acting like he doesn't know, because he did know. He always knew. And I have the phone call. I knew the phone call. I pinpointed the phone call where he told me about.
Previously.
He had previously told me 3 months earlier about knowing that Shimmy was Warner Brothers president's son. But I don't say anything. I'm like, okay. And so I'm like, look, why? And I'm doing the whole, why are you focusing on this? Why aren't you just trying to get a series made? You could still get a series made. You could still this. You could still get a fucking a documentary. What's happening with CNN? And no, we're suing them. So he's completely kind of fuck all that. And he's kind of just worried about suing them. And so we end up, then of course he just stops answering my phone. Months go by. And one day I'm out at an area we called Stonehenge, and I'm sitting there with a bunch of guys, and I'm actually sitting with a guy, Donovan Davis, and a bunch of other guys. I don't know if Pete was there or not, but I'm sitting with a bunch of guys, and this guy, Dennis Caroni, comes up and goes, hey, what's going on with that with the book? And I go, what do you mean? So you making any money on that? I go, with what book? And he's like, the Deveroli book, Deveroli's book. And I said, no, man. I said, they never published the book. They couldn't get it published. I said, they didn't publish it. And of course, I haven't heard anything, and I haven't talked to this guy in fucking 2-3 months, at least. I'm like, damn, they never published it. They couldn't get it published. They don't think they never got a publishing deal, nothing. And he's like, what are you talking about? Hold on, they did publish it. He walks off. And he comes back and he shows me the magazine. Pulls out Ocean Drive magazine, opens it up, and there's a fucking picture of Deveroli with hundreds of the book behind him, the book that I wrote, holding the book at the Miami Book Fair, and he's signing autographs on his memoir, called Once a Gun Runner. And it's from Ephraim Deveroli with Matthew Cox. By the way, his picture is real big on the back of the cover, and I was supposed to get my picture on the back of the cover. I was supposed to get my, a bio. I didn't get any of that. So it's fine. And I was like, holy shit. So I take the magazine from Dennis, and I go to Frank and Pete, and I explain the situation, to Pete, and Pete says, we got to sue him. And I was like, how? Like, it's virtually impossible to sue someone from a federal prison. And Pete says, I'll do the whole thing. I'll do it. And so Pete puts together a lawsuit, and he sues Warner Brothers, and he sues. Well, first what he does is he orders the lawsuit. They've already sued Warner Brothers. So they're suing Warner Brothers. And Pete files a motion trying to intervene. I was going to say conjoin, but intervene on that lawsuit, saying that I need to be a part of that lawsuit. And so we go back and forth, and Deveroli and Ross are saying that they'll represent my interests. That's what they're saying. No, he doesn't need to be a part of it. We'll represent his interests. And it's funny. The funny thing about it is, even though my name's on the book, like, there's almost no mention of me anywhere else. And Warner Brothers, through the whole thing, like, they never really mentioned me until eventually. Here's what's happening. We're going back and forth. It's going on forever. This, you know how it is, bro. It's going, and I'm fighting this whole thing. I have no money. And I'm fighting this with, I'm buying mackerel, that's currency in prison, on the commissary, and I'm paying guys to type shit up. I'm paying for I'm using used stamps, like we're taking stamps off of envelopes that have been mailed in. We're peeling them off, or we're cleaning them off with deodorant so that they look like they haven't been stamped, and we're putting them back on and mailing out shit to the courts, and I'm committing fucking fraud in prison just for mail, on mail stamps. So we're doing everything we can. When we have to copy motions, I'm paying a guy that works in Unicor, which is like the federal factory that you can work in. I'm paying him to make copies in Unicor and then smuggle out the copies, and I'm giving him mackerel for the stamps, because you could spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on just the copies of the motions. And then you got these fucking motions, and you have to, one to the court, one to the prosecutor, one to not prosecutor, one to the lawyers. The lawyers, it's ridiculous. Anyway, the point is, this goes on and on, And eventually we're at a point where we realize like we're in a bad spot. Like they're going to kick us out of this lawsuit. Like they're arguing that I've signed a work for hire agreement. I'm arguing that they've committed fraud in order to sue Warner Brothers, because I was in the visitation room when they put together their plan to sue Warner Brothers for theft of intellectual property, and I have the evidence that says that Ross and Deveroli and his cousins set the whole thing up to kind of get a rope Warner Brothers into a position to fleece, right? So you guys set up this whole little scam, and it was brilliant. It really was brilliant. I mean, you read the book. Like the fact that there was only a couple of people away to rope in Shimmy, and poor Shimmy. He's just trying to make a fucking documentary. Can you imagine when this was the funniest thing. When we found out that by reading the motions that Shimmy was almost impossible to track down. Like they were able to serve like Todd Phillips and Jonah Hill, and everybody's getting served. All these lawyers and Warner Brothers lawyers, they're all being served. But Shimmy is literally like running out the back of a fucking different place. They're coming in the front. He's going out the back. He's going out the side door. He's impossible to serve. The Blackfish guy got served. So we're going back and forth. And what ends up happening is they're negotiating. We're trying to get into the lawsuit. And at some point, we're concerned that we're not going to be able to get into the lawsuit. And they're going to get us, we feel like we're done. We're about to be done. Like they're about to kick us out of the lawsuit for some reason. I forget exactly what it was. Pete and Amadeo did all the motions, not most of, all of the motions. So he would know exactly what the issue was. But we got to a point where it was like, we're really fucked here. And then we found out that Warner Brothers and Deveroli and Ross Reback had not a conference, what do you call
Mediation.
it? A mediation scheduled. So we get the motion, because keep in mind too, in order to get the docket sheet, you know what we have to do? My buddy Pete's mother every day is checking the docket for motions. And anytime there's a new motion, she's ordering the motion, she's mailing it in. So we're days behind on everything. By the time we get this, we find out, holy shit, like in 12 days, there's a mediation. And we're like, holy shit, what do we do? Like these guys are going to mediate, and they're going to get a settlement. And they're going to get a settlement, and the settlement is going to pay them out, and we're going to get nothing. So Pete's like, okay, the one thing that we held back was because their lawsuit, by the way, initially Deveroli and Reback sued Warner Bros. Because the movie had come out. They sued them saying that they had stolen their intellectual property. But when the movie came out, Warner had changed so much of the film that they said essentially it's fiction. And they say that in their motion. They say, we have altered this to such a degree it's no longer a true crime, it's fiction. Which they thought was brilliant, which was brilliant. In my opinion, I believe that they did actually get a hold of the manuscript, and they read the manuscript and they altered it so much that they knew this would be their defense, because they knew Deveroli is going to sue. He's extremely litigious. So they knew that was coming. So they altered it so much they thought, we're going to alter this, because we know what their approach is going to be. We're going to alter it so much that we can say, it's not even the same fucking movie. It's barely the same story. So what happens is, and that's what happens, it's barely the same story. So what they end up doing is, that's their argument. And so their lawyer, Deveroli and Reback's lawyer, says, hey, listen, they're right. I'm not moving forward with this lawsuit. Absolutely not. And their lawyer at the time, by the way, was Hulk Hogan's lawyer, the one who got like the $115 million lawsuit for Hulk Hogan. And he's like, I'm not going forward, bro. No, drops them. They go find another attorney, and they amend their complaint against Warner Brothers. They drop all their previous claims, and they file new claims saying that Warner Brothers has violated, what's the name of the law? You know,
like false advertising.
But yeah, basically false. It's actually it's actually like a law.
The Lanham Act.
Lanham? Okay, the Lanham Act. They violated the Layman Act, which is you cannot knowingly advertise something, knowing you're advertising something falsely, right? Like you can't advertise, hey, this is a Toyota that has a hydrogen engine in it and it never needs to be fueled again. And then you sell it knowing it has to be fueled every 2,000 miles. And then you sell it and you go, oh, you're hit. No, it's not how it works.
So it's just they recharacterize the whole lawsuit.
Right. So they rechange the whole lawsuit to say, hey, this was all, you guys advertise this. And by advertising this movie as being a true story, and keep in mind, they have so many cameras. There's so much footage out there of Jonah Hill saying, what I love about this is it's a true story. These guys really exist. These things really happened. And then they've got Todd Phillips saying it. Then they've got Bradley Cooper saying it. They've got like everybody saying true story, real people, real thing, real. And then they've got, but we have in the motion saying it's fiction. So they've got a good.
The interesting thing is that claim then would work regardless. He didn't need the whole scheme for that particular claim.
Yes, right. But what's also interesting is it kind of destroyed my argument, which was that this was all a scam and that our contract is null and void, and it could still say it's null and void. That's fine. And they're saying by advertising the movie falsely, it destroyed the marketability of their projects. And that so by you guys committing a fraud, by Warner Brothers committing a fraud, you've actually destroyed their project, which was the true story. That's what they're saying. This is the real story. So they end up scheduling a mediation. We know the mediation is coming in like 2 weeks, and Pete's like, the only thing we can do at this point. Because he's like, they're going to come up with an agreement. Because Warner Brothers, by the way, because of my motion, Warner Brothers is also arguing, we don't even know if Deveroli is a true owner of this story. There's this guy, Matt Cox, that says that he's actually the true owner of it because they have a null and void contract because Deveroli's committing fraud. And it sounds to me like maybe he did commit fraud. Like they're leaning into it like, hey, your case isn't that great. They're also trying to depose me. In prison, federal prison. So here's what happens is that Pete says, look, we only have one choice at this point. I'm like, okay. And he said, well, I'm like, what's that? He said, at this point, what we had held back the whole time was that a good portion of the manuscript is fabricated. And of course, what I also said was that it's more than a good portion because really, Deveroli's character is partially fabricated because I made him a lot more likable than he actually was. So we're saying that basically the book that they're saying is that Deveroli and Reback are saying is the true story, we're saying is a fabrication. So now if you've got one fabricated story didn't destroy the credibility of your true story. Your true story is actually fabricated too. It destroys their fucking case. If I can prove that it's true. And so what we do is, first what happens is we end up filing that lawsuit. We file that motion. And they get it. So we write this motion up. Pete writes the motion up, 12 pages, 30 pages, I forget what it was. And he files it. And everybody gets served and it gets filed. Well, it gets filed like literally like the day before the mediation. And the day before that, when it gets filed, within hours, Warner Brothers cancels the mediation. You can only imagine how crushed Reback and Deveroli were. I mean, just gutted him. Because I know this because at the end of the story, Deborah really tells me, you cost me fucking tens of millions of dollars, which even to this day makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. So that's what happened. So they cancel it. They, of course, we start going back and forth, back and forth. When I file this motion saying this, by the way, we start going back and forth with the motions. Another mediation is scheduled. But we're still going back and forth, and we're kind of thinking like, well, nothing can get done. You know, like we're trying to intervene on that, or we're fucking suing these guys, and we're trying to intervene on this whole thing, and nothing. They can't do anything. There's no way to fucking do anything. They can't. I don't know why they're having a mediation, other than it's like, well, the judge asked them to have a mediation. Like, okay, and so finally, months later, they have another mediation. We don't get it quashed. What ends up happening? So, okay, no big deal. They have a mediation. That's fine. So the next day, after the mediation, we don't know what happened. I'm sitting there. I go to check my core links, which is my email system in prison, federal prison. I go to check it, and there's an email from my niece who works for my brother-in-law, who's a lawyer. And she says, by the way, my dad wanted me to let you know that Ross Reback died last night. And I mean, I was just like, I picked up the phone, I called my sister, I said, well, what happened? She's like, all we know is that he passed away. And I was like, holy shit. And I'm like, and she said, I don't know. I'm not sure. I think it might have been a heart. I mean, keep in mind, Ross was like 54 years old, 53, 54.
Young guy.
It was not, yeah. Now, I do think he did a lot of fucking coke or something when he was younger. He seemed like that kind of guy. He was the kind of guy that always kind of he was married, but he also, this is always also, by the way, at a point when, like, I always liked Ross. I still like Ross. But at one point, he had come to see me one day, and I remember thinking, not good. He told me a story about how he had a girlfriend. And I was like, you have a girlfriend? He's like, yeah. Because he was going to see her like after the thing. He's like, yeah, I got till such and such. He said, I don't have to leave here till like 4 o'clock. It's an hour and a half back. He said, I'm meeting my girl at 6. And I was like, your wife? And I said his wife's name. I'm not going to say it here. I said his wife's name. He's like, no. He's like, I actually have a girlfriend. I was like, what? He's like, yeah. He's like, I mean, I've been married to my wife since we were like, after high school, we got married. And I was like, it was like 30 years or so. I was like, okay. I said, wow. He said, I mean, she knows about her. And I went, what? He's like, yeah, I mean, whatever, like 10 years ago, he said, I started sleeping with my assistant. My wife found out about it. I moved out of the house. And then that went on for months. We ended up going to dinner one night, and she said, I want you to move back in. I told her, well, I'm not going to stop seeing my girlfriend. And she said, I'm not asking you to stop seeing her. I'm asking you to move back in. And so we've always had this agreement where I have a girlfriend, but as long as I sleep there at night, and I see my wife, we go out to dinner a couple times a week, and we're married. But he said, and I only see my girlfriend every once in a while. I'm like, the same. I said, wow. I said, so she's known about this girl for this whole time? He's like, well, no, this is a different one. Is that girl, we only saw each other for 4 or 5 years. I've been seeing this girl for about 3-4 years. I was like, and she knows? He's like, yeah, she knows. He's like I'm like, how does that work? He said, it works like I say, hey, look, I won't be home till 11 o'clock tonight. That's it. And he said, when I come home, I take a shower and I get into bed. And he said, she knows I'm with her because I don't tell her I'm with her. He said, if I have a business meeting, I say, hey, I have a business meeting with so-and-so tonight. I'll be home at 8. He said, but she knows if I'm coming home at 11 or so and I don't mention who it is, she doesn't ask. And I'm like, holy shit, that's crazy, bro. And I act like, wow, no big deal. Like, oh, wow, that's fucking nuts. I can't imagine it. But I'm really thinking to myself something that Donovan David's father had told him one time, which was, don't ever trust a man who cheats on his wife. if he'll fuck over the most important person in his life, he'll fuck you over in a second. He just can't be trusted. And I remember thinking, this guy's a scoundrel. I like him. I like a lot of scoundrels, right? Like most of my best friends are scoundrels. I'm not judging, but he became someone that I thought would look out for me, to somebody that I thought, and that had happened earlier. So like when Ross disappeared,
You expected it.
I wasn't shocked by it. Like it wasn't like a blow, like the blow it was when Deveroli just blew me off after really going all in on convincing me we were good friends. So what happens is Ross is now dead. I call my sister. She says, I don't know anything right now. I don't know. I'll let you know. We're going to go to the funeral. A week later, I call my sister. I said, hey, whatever happened? You went to Ross's funeral. She said, my sister knows that there's a lawsuit. She knows we're suing Ross. My sister and my brother-in-law are friends with Ross. That's how he became my literary agent. So that's why she was going to the funeral. Not for me. She was going because she knew Ross and his wife. So I said, what happened at the funeral? How did Ross die? She said, well, he had a heart attack. I was like, he was in such good shape. She's like, I know. He was in good shape, but she said he didn't even know he had a heart problem, anything. That's why I kind of think must be like powder or something, right? Like that's the only I can think of. And I could be completely wrong about that. I don't know that. Seems like the kind of guy that was kind of a partier, But so I'm like, okay. I said, so what? So I don't really know. I'm like, oh, okay. Now, keep in mind, we don't really know what's happened
With the lawsuit.
We know there was a mediation.
But you're in the dark. You're in prison.
I'm in the dark. There's no way to find out. Nothing's been filed. So I said, oh, okay. And I don't really know what to say to my sister. I don't know. And my sister says, to her credit, she says, we talked to his wife. And the great thing about, she's like, what she said was kind of like the silver lining was that he'd had a really great last day. I said, okay. She said he had had some big negotiation with some big studio in Los Angeles, and they had some mediation. And she said, and he ended up negotiating this really great deal. And Ross, he's a negotiator. I'm like, right. She's like, he negotiated this really great deal with them, and they ended up settling like a lawsuit or something. And then she said he was just so thrilled about the whole thing. And he went to bed that night, and he just passed away. But he had a great last day. And I said, wow, good for him. And she's like, okay. Well, I'll talk to you later. Oh, yeah, thank you. Hang up the phone. Listen, I ran to Stonehenge where Pete and Amadeo hang out, like a small child doing the windmill, like across the compound. In the PA system where the COs are going, no running on the compound, no running on the I ran up, I was like, oh my God, listen. What's even funnier about it is that Amadeo had even kind of suggested that they probably had a deal. Because anyway, what happened, I don't remember if I think it was maybe the day before or the day after, whatever. There was a filing where both parties, no, it was the day before. A couple days before that, all we knew was this, that Warner Brothers and Deveroli and Ross had filed a motion with the court to
close the case.
To close the case without a resolution. Like, we're closing it, that's it. We're both taking our toys and going home. No settlement. And I remember when we got that, Amadeo had said, which is one of the guys, Pete and I told Amadeo, and he goes, they got a settlement. And we're like, they got a settlement? And he's like, I'm like, no, it doesn't say. He goes, no, it's an out of court settlement. And I went, does that happen a lot? He said, well, it does when they want to keep the settlement from one of the parties, for sure. He goes, and that's you. They don't want you to know how much the settlement is. We were like, how could they possibly even have a settlement? Like, I'm still out here suing. And he's like, no, That's what it is. Okay. Then my sister goes to the funeral, tells me that and I remember thinking Amadeo's nuts. That's not what happened. Like I've never heard this. You probably heard of out-of-court settlements, right? But I mean, to me, we were just like, that doesn't seem right. So when my sister says that, I was like, fucking Amadeo is right. So then I run all the way across combat. I go to fucking Pete and I'm like, oh my God, there was a settlement. There was a settlement. I remember Amadeo was sitting there like, and we're like, what do you think they got? What do you think they got? What do you think they got? Because of course I'm thinking we're going to sue for that. And he's like, oh, there was a judge there too, by the way. There was a judge, Callahan or something, Collin, or I forget. He was the judge that was in the Cash for Kids case, which was where the judges were sentencing kids to a private juvenile facility, and they were getting kickbacks. And so he eventually ends up getting like 20 years. So he was there, and they're both like, he got at least 5 million, at least 5, and then no, he got at least 10 million, at least 10 million. They're going back and forth like how much money they got. But we don't know. So anyway, we continue to sue. So we refile our lawsuits, suing again. And Deveroli ends up he's got his lawyer who's negotiating. We're negotiating back and forth. And the lawyer's a real fucking piece of garbage. And so we end up, Deveroli, of course, is saying that I'm lying, like it's not true, that none of that manuscript's made up. So I end up finding my copy of Stranger Danger, and I make copies of Stranger Danger, and I make copies specifically of the pages and the stories that I lifted, and you'll have a page here that's almost identical to this page. A story here and 2 pages here, almost identical to this one. These two, I mean, even the descriptions of people are identical. So I do this whole thing, and we take that and we mail it to his lawyer. Now, if your client is telling you that's all a lie, it's not true, it's not true, it's not true, it's all a lie, and you're filing motions saying it's not true, it's not true, it's not true, and suddenly you find out your client is absolutely lying to you, can you continue to represent that lie? His lawyer fucking dumps him. And then I get a letter from the one lawyer saying he's no longer representing Deveroli, because I've been communicating with the lawyer, because I'm pro se, I'm my own lawyer. And then the new lawyer comes in and applies to be on Core Links, and now I'm talking to him. This goes on and on. We end up getting we get 2 lawyers filed. He ends up getting like 3 different lawyers. He's had 3 different lawyers. We get 2 lawyers fired. I forget how we managed to keep getting these lawyers fired. He finally gets one lawyer who's just fucking shark. And I remember, I think this is the lawyer where I get on the phone with my brother. I call up my brother. This is a lawyer, a law firm out of Tampa. And I'm talking to my brother on the phone. I'm like, hey, because we were having people serve, so I had to call my brother to get the process server phone number, so that my brother could order the process serving, right? So we're sending him money. He's doing everything. He's like, hey, listen. He said, I talked to Jack, which is my brother-in-law. So I talked to Jack. I said, oh, okay. And he goes, that law firm that is representing this guy Deveroli? I'm like, right. He goes, he said that they're no fucking joke. Like they're known for being vicious. I go, vicious, really? And he goes, yeah. Like they have a really bad reputation. Like it's a vicious law firm. I go, really? I said, well, one of my lawyers had 2 FBI informants murdered, and the other one plotted to take over the Congo. More vicious than that? And he's like, no, it's probably not that. I said, okay, I'm gonna stick with. I'm good. So we keep going and going. What Deveroli didn't count on was the fact that I was going to be able to get my sentence. When Deveroli left, I have like 18 years left. You have like 18 years left. I have a significant amount of time left.
Right.
So he's thinking to himself, I'm never seeing this guy again. He certainly didn't think we were going to be able to sue him because I don't do legal work, you know? And even then, he should be able to quash a lawsuit from me easily. But I had Pierre Rossini and I had Frank Amadeo. He didn't expect that. And so he also didn't expect, so he thought, well, this guy's got fucking close to 20 years left. He's fuck him. He's done. 2 decades. This guy's not going to be a problem. That was one mistake. The second mistake was he didn't realize that I was going to be able to get myself out of prison. So I get my sentence reduced once by 7 years and another reduction for 5 years.
So you're out.
So I basically walk out of prison with this lawsuit. And you have to think the last few months, we have to file a lawsuit saying we want to push off this for six months to a year because I'm going to be in a halfway house in a few months. And so they push it off so long, I believe, if I remember correctly. They definitely pushed it off for a while, although I'm sure they fought it. They want to make it as difficult as possible. So I get out and I'm in the halfway house still filing motions. We're still doing like discovery. We're trying to hold off on them doing deposing me. We're doing everything we can to like drag this out because that's really all we have. I end up getting a lawyer. So Pete and Frank, they're still locked up. They can't help me and I can't go into fucking court. Pete's telling me I can prep you. Prep you? I'm talking to you on an email and the phone. Like, these are 15-minute phone calls every other day. Like, what are you talking about? You can't prep me. So he's like, well, you're going to have to get a lawyer. I start calling lawyers. I called like 20 different lawyers at least. And almost all of them, Deveroli had called and scheduled an appointment with and talked to them over the phone. And so they couldn't see me. Because it was something conflict of interest or something, which once again, dirtbag move, but brilliant. So I'm in a bad spot. I end up talking to a lawyer who's like a criminal defense attorney state, and who had represented some friend of mine. And I don't think he can or he might be able to represent me, but whatever. So I talked to him. He said, yeah, I can't do it. I hear what you're saying, though. I'm like, no, man, they've already settled. Warner Brothers already settled. There's a pot of money somewhere. I already know there's a pot of money, by the way, because during this whole time, the new lawyers are now trying to negotiate with me on what they're going to pay me. So I know there's money. I'm able to tell them there's a settlement. Like I can send them stuff like emails. There's a settlement. They already said there's a settlement. We're going back and forth. I end up talking to this one lawyer who says, yeah, I can't help you, man. I'm sorry. Okay, hang up the phone. Like 3 or 4 days later, he calls me back. He's, hey, listen, I just read this article about this guy named Francis Alexander, because the name of his law firm's like Alexander Law Firm, because he knows nobody can pronounce his last name. And he's like, his name's Francis. I'm like, okay. He's like, I can actually have his cell number. I go, really? Yeah. He said, he's suing Led Zeppelin. Matter of fact, he sued P. Diddy. He names all these people he sued and won. Really? Yeah. Sued like Hertz. He sued like all these fucking huge law cases that he's won. He's like, he's brilliant. And he'd read an article in the Philadelphia magazine. And he gives me his cell number and I call him. And he answers the phone like an absolute fucking lunatic. He answers the phone. I'm like, hello? He goes, hello. And I go, hi. I'm thinking, I thought I was calling a law firm. They don't answer. He goes, I pick it up, I'm like, hello? And he's like, yeah, who's this? And I go, is this I said, I'm calling to talk to Francis Malafi, I think his name is. And he's like, yeah, this is Francis. Who's this? No, he didn't say. He goes, what do you want with Francis? And I go, well, I'm trying to call a law firm, and he goes, yeah. And I go, okay, my name's Matt Cox. Is this Francis? He's like, yeah. What do you need, bro? What do you need? And I'm like, are you a lawyer? Yeah, I'm the best. I'm the best, bro. I'm the best. Matter of fact, he said, I'm walking out of federal court right now. I just fucking won a motion for my client. Hey, Jimmy. He goes, I can't talk to you right now. I'm on the phone. He said, I'll talk to you tomorrow, bro. I'm going to call you tomorrow. We're going to get it all settled, okay? And then some guy's like, yo, man, I appreciate so much, bro. You saved my life, man. I mean, it's literally like sounds scripted. It sounds like the guy sitting, you're calling like a fucking... a phone room where they've all got fucking like, hey, and they, you know what to say. Like, this is a normal thing. And I'm like, and I hear him getting in his car. And like, I'm like, I thought he was drunk. And I'm like, yeah, I'm suing Warner Brothers. Have you heard the movie War Dogs? And yeah, okay, sounds good. I'm interested. Let me look at this stuff. I mean, he's insane. So I get his email. I send him all the stuff. He reads it over. He drags me for months. I'm like, look, bro, if you're not going to fucking do this, I said, I can't keep going. Fuck. Do you have any money? This is going to take, people don't take intellectual property cases for nothing. They don't take it for nothing. I said, bro, I don't give a fuck. You could take 100% of the whole fucking thing. I don't give a fuck about the money. Nah, I'm not going to do that, bro. I want to do that for you. But you got fucked, bro. You got fucked. So we go on and on. He takes the case. We end up going to Miami and negotiating with Deveroli. We go to Brickell. You ever been to Brickell? Nice. Brickell's nice.
Brickell's nice.
Yeah. So you go to Brickell. I always think of it. It's like a cleaner, sunnier version of Manhattan or something, right? Like it's, you know what I'm saying? Like it's just, it's amazing, but it's just sunnier. And it's like, I mean, I've never seen so many fucking Ferraris and Porsches and Lamborghinis. It's like, it's enough already. Okay, you're a big shot. It's enough. So we go there. We negotiate for two or three. There's a mediation. There's the mediator goes in one room, comes in the other, and says, "Look, they're saying this," and you back and forth, and we argue, and it just never goes anywhere. It doesn't go anywhere, right? So I end up leaving, and as I'm leaving Miami. And keep in mind, Francis and his law partner, AJ is actually representing me. To be honest, he's actually my lawyer. But Francis is the one who I talk to. But he's still there. So they go. They're basically like, yeah, it's not going to work out. Okay, we go. We have lunch. I go see a buddy of mine from prison. And then it's getting late, and I got to it's like a 4-hour drive. So I get in my mom's car because my car wouldn't make it. So there's no way that piece of shit I was driving was going to make it to Miami from Tampa. So I'm driving my mom's Lexus. She's still alive. I'm going to leave, and I'm leaving Miami, and I get a phone call. Where you at? I'm like, what's going on? Turn around, bro. We're meeting Deveroli and his lawyer right now at the Pink Pony. Nah, bro. I said, I'm not going to no Pink Pony. Like, I think it's a scam. Like, I think that he's wanting me to go to the Pink Pony. Like, I just left this guy a couple hours ago. He's a lunatic. Anyway, so he convinces me they're going to meet. I turn around, I drive back. But it takes me about an hour to get there. By the time I get there just before Deveroli's attorneys and Deveroli walk in. It's now like fucking 8 o'clock at night. It's dark. I get there. They're fucking good. Francis is fucking throwing fucking money at all the fucking strippers like a fucking lunatic. This is a lawyer. And AJ is
he's got to blow off some steam.
AJ's is very square. Very square. He's sitting there, I'm married, thank you. He's not interested in, I can't be divorced in my early 30s. No, I just can't. Francis is a nut. And I get there, and I'm talking to these guys, but Francis is drinking a lot. And he drinks for the next 30 minutes. And he's so fucking drunk that we realize, like, he can barely speak. And then when he stands up, he's almost falling down. So AJ's like, look, this isn't going to happen. And these guys keep calling, saying they're on their way. So they drag him. They take Francis out. They get in, like, an Uber or whatever, and they drive off. And as they're leaving, Deveroli and his lawyer come in. I'm now trying to leave, and Deborah's like, bro, let me talk to you. Let me talk to you. And I'm like, no, there's nothing to talk about. No, just let me talk to you. And I said, I'll talk to you for a minute, not without your lawyer. So we go, and of course, these guys told me not to talk to him. Don't talk to him, but they're leaving. I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm not going to talk to him. So then I sit down with Deborah. I'm like, well, what do you want, bro? And we end up arguing back and forth, back and forth. And what I love about Deveroli is that he's one of those guys that always thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. You know what I mean? And he's sitting there telling me, he's like, bro, let's just settle this, bro. First of all, he's telling me to fire my lawyers, which is funny because he was, during the negotiation, they kept coming back and the negotiator was saying, listen, Deveroli wants to know if he can just talk to you by himself. Francis is saying he's going to try and get you to fire us.
Well,
so that you don't have to give us whatever, 30, 40%. He's going to try and get you to fire us and say we can make a deal outside and he's good for it. He goes, and then once you fired us, he's not going to pay you. And I was like, fuck, that's something he'd do too. Like it's so over the top sleazy that it's something he would do. So when I get there and I'm at the strip club and I'm talking to Deveroli, he's, look, bro, he said, first he says, how'd you even fucking get this guy? And I'm like, I'm just like, I made fucking 30 phone calls and I got him. How are you paying him? I go, he's doing on contingent. And he's like, fuck. And he sat there like, listen, man, he said, let's work something out. He goes, you fire them and you don't have to pay them shit. I'll just fucking pay you. I'll pay you in fucking cash, bro. You know I got, like, he's doing a whole thing, right? And I'm like, holy shit. I said, do you realize that Francis and AJ are so fucking good? They told me you would say that. They told me you would say that. And he's like, because keep in mind, once he looked into Francis and AJ, he realized how good they were. Like, he realized, like, these are fucking serious guys. So it made him nervous. So we're going back and forth, arguing, and we end up negotiating a settlement. You know, my favorite part of the whole interaction is, well, there's multiple things. He keeps saying, like, I guess he heard it in a movie or something, which is, it's not personal, bro. It's just business. It's not personal. It's business. And I was just like this is so, like, that's such a fucking mobster thing to say. Like, you think that's something that the mobsters say or whatever. And I was like, but it is personal to me. I was like, do you understand? I'm like, I don't give a fuck about the money. That money's not going to change my fucking life. You know, I said, I don't give a fuck. I said, I'm sleeping in somebody's spare room right now.
If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where GhostBed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, GhostBed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation.
Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use code Cox at the checkout. I said, you know, my car's such a piece of shit. I had to borrow my mother's car to drive here because my car would never make it. Like, I don't give a fuck about that money. I said, all I give a shit is making sure that you end up with as little money as possible. Because what Warner had done was they'd placed a fund, a bunch of money together, and they had an agreement with Deveroli. This money is here, and you get to keep all of it. But you have to negotiate with Cox. If Cox signs off, we release the money to you. And the longer this drags out, the more that we're billing against the fucking money. So the lawyers are billing against the money. So it's dwindling. Every motion you're making is costing me fucking money. You've cost me tens of millions. I had these motherfuckers. Do you understand? We had these fuckers. I was like, well, you should have come to me first. You should have told me what was going on. And you should have negotiated with me. I said, if you'd given me fucking $20,000 when I was in prison, I said, that would have changed everything for me getting out. But now it's been like a year. Like, I've been doing this for 8 to 10 months. My life was extremely difficult. I'm living in someone's spare room. You could have helped me. You took the book, you published the book, you file a fucking lawsuit, you do all of this, you leave me in prison, and you think I'm supposed to just go away. No. And I said, let me explain something. I said, I am willing to spit, and I said, and he knows that Francis and AJ are working on it's pro bono. They're the ones that are paying the bills. And I told him, I said, I'm willing to spend every last fucking dime of my lawyer's money to make sure you get nothing. And he, the look on his face, he's just like, holy shit. Like, I don't give a fuck. I said, you understand, I'm probably going to pay every bit of that money to my lawyers. Doesn't even matter what it is. So he and I go back and forth. He throws out a number, and I throw out a number, and we go back and forth a little bit. And I go, okay, I said, I'll talk to Francis and AJ, and I walk off. And the next day, I call him up, and they keep Deborah Rowley's lawyers already called him 3 times, left messages. They're not calling back. They call up. They're like, hey, what's going on? We don't want to call him back. What's going on? What happened? And I explained the whole thing, and I tell him we're going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I said, and when I get to the part where I tell him, I'm like, I told him I'll spend every fucking last dime of Francis's fucking, because it's Francis' law firm, of Francis's fucking money to make sure you don't get a dime. They fucking burst out laughing. They're like, I love it. I mean, it's hilarious. So we end up negotiating a deal. It didn't get signed for weeks. And, but we end up signing it, and, they cut Francis a huge check, and he slid me a little bit.
What a saga.
It really, to me, it's one of the more interesting stories, because I feel like it's odd. It almost, like, lawsuits just don't happen. The fact that all kind of came to that conclusion is impossible. It's an impossibility. To successfully sue someone from federal prison is virtually impossible. To get yourself out of federal prison is virtually impossible. To get all these lawyers fired for Deborah Rowley is impossible. To the fact that we figured out what the mediation was, that it had actually happened, was impossible. Like, so it was, because I have no doubt, had we not filed our paperwork, they were just going to say there was no settlement. We didn't settle. Now, we're willing to give you a few $1,000s to just go away, but we just decided we're not going to continue with this. You see what I'm saying? But luckily, my sister snuck in. We know there's a settlement. I mean, it really, and the fact that I even found out that they were suing, that this was a thing. Had Dennis Caroni not walked by with that magazine, I wouldn't have looked into it. I just kind of assumed they never were able to get the book going. The movie's being made. Maybe they're going to sue. I don't know what's happening with the lawsuit. I'm not involved in the lawsuit. It was Pete and Amadeo that came in and said, "No, it's like I have a work for hire, and I'm supposed to get paid on the book." And they're like, "I don't think you have I don't even think you have an agreement." Like, "No, I've got an agreement." And they're like, "No. That agreement was predicated on a fraud. And a fraudulent agreement is null and void." And I'm like, huh? I'm just like, ooh. And they're the ones that are like, "Here's what I think happened." And they tell me what they think happened and what they think out. And Pete's like, "Yeah, this is, let me talk to Frank." And they talk, and they come back and they go, "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to sue him. And this is what we're going to say to try and get rid of that contract." And he's like, "If we can get rid of that contract," he goes, "you own the fucking intellectual property." I was like, oh shit. So I don't know that we were ever going to win that. We weren't going to win it, but I do know that it was a decent argument, and it was upsetting enough that it caused them to settle and lose millions. So yeah, that's it. That's the whole story behind War Dogs. And now, by the way, because Deborah Rowley and Reback's their lawsuit alleged that Warner Brothers got a hold of the manuscript and used it to write the screenplay for War Dogs. Now, whenever somebody introduces me, what they say is, You know my buddy Matt? Yeah. You know he's a writer. Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. You ever see the movie War Dogs? Yeah. He wrote War Dogs. And I'm always going, I didn't write Well, no, he didn't write. Well, see, they stole his story and they used his story to write War Dogs. That's not what happened.
You ever talked about this with David Packhouse?
Yeah. We did matter of fact, we got over a million views on that. David Packhouse is on the show. We talked about the whole thing. I actually talked to David several times when I was in prison. I remember David asked me one time, he said, hey, I have a question for you. And I was like, yeah, what's up? He said, did Deveroli ever tell you why he fucked me over? I mean, he didn't know. It's like he just never really realized why Deveroli fucked him. And I was like, yeah, I know exactly why. He told me exactly why. Because I asked him, why didn't you just pay this guy? You owed him millions of dollars. Why didn't you just pay him? Because he was being sued right then, still being sued by he was being sued by Packhouse. I'm like, why didn't you just pay this guy? And he goes, well, first of all, he doesn't have a contract. I'm like, yeah, but you haven't, because in the movie they tear up the contract. There really was never a contract. And I'm like, okay, but you said you had an agreement. You already told me you had an agreement with him. And I'm like, but you told me you had an agreement. He's right. He said, once I started hiring these other guys, when he hired Alex Podresky, whatever, when he hired him, like, this guy spoke Russian. He spoke Russian. He was more, according to him, he was more competent. He spoke Russian. He said, and this is a guy who worked all the time. He's like, and I just paid him like $100,000. He's like, I owe Packhouse like millions. He said, so what he realized was, why would I give these guys give somebody a percentage and pay them millions when I can just hire people and pay them $100,000 a year and get the same result? And he said, once he hired him, he hired a couple of guys doing this, $50,000 here, $60,000 here, $100,000 for this guy. And he said, once I realized, why would I could just spend a couple $100,000 and save myself millions. He's like, why would I? I said, yeah, but you still owed Packhouse. He's like, fuck him. And he's like, and I'm like, that's fucked up. And he's, you don't understand. You don't understand. I was thinking, I do understand. You're fucking the guy over. Like, he'd already explained to me the first time he met Packhouse and how he got him to come and work. And Packhouse worked for fucking a year or so. I think he made like $7,000 total. He worked all this time for $7,000 thinking he's going to make millions. He just never paid him. He's like, he didn't have a contract. Fuck him. So yeah, that was his whole thing. I remember Packhouse was like, he goes, I fucking knew it. I fucking knew it.
What would be the, I just want to ask this before I let you go. What would be the...
what happened to the interrogation? You were going to interrogate me. You were going to talk to me about this. Sorry. Go ahead. You were going to question me.
Yeah, I was supposed to question you instead of you just monologuing about it.
Well, I mean, I didn't know how, people, if somebody's watching the video and they don't know the story, I probably could have trimmed it down a little bit.
No,
I was thinking, I was like, I wonder if we could do the AI little documentary with that story you just told.
Of course you can.
Probably around an hour.
Is it an hour?
I don't know. I'll have to go back and check, but
Maybe. Probably do some narration in there.
yeah.
Okay, so go ahead.
Just in closing, I'm curious what your thoughts are. If you could correct the criminal justice system in the country, what would it be? Like, what would be something that you would do to like fix it or ameliorate how, what's wrong and how would you fix it?
Sheesh. I would probably get rid of it. There's a few things that I would probably change. One of them is intent, right? Like you don't, like, people get arrested for stuff because maybe they did something, but their intent wasn't to do it. And that's kind of fucked up. Like, you didn't really mean to do that, So that's probably one. The conspiracy laws they're just too vague. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can wrap anybody into a conspiracy. It's frightening. You could have very little contact at all, as far as a conspiracy is concerned, you can very little interaction with anybody, very little culpability, and you can get wrapped into a conspiracy and end up getting 10 or 20 years. The other thing I would fix is that if they're offering you a plea and you go to sentence, like there shouldn't be I don't think that you should be penalized for going to trial. And that's what happens. Like I can't tell you how many guys they come in and they say, look, take 3 years. And the guy's like, what are you talking about? I barely even did this. I don't deserve 3 years. I'm going to trial. And they go to trial and they get 17. And you're like...
Meaning it shouldn't be worse than the deal they offer you.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know about that, but I mean, you shouldn't be penalized.
There should be some anchor.
Something. I mean, like
That's smart.
You can't tell me that the U.S. attorney that's offering 30 years... He thinks 3 years. He's offering you 3 years. He thinks 3 years is probably reasonable. So it's within, let's say he thinks, well, I think you probably should get 4 or 5, but I'll offer you 3. Okay. But then he loses at trial. And because you're upset with him, this guy gets 7 times. You see him like
that's very
5 times. Like, man, are you serious? Like 3 years wasn't that big of a deal. It was a big deal, but I mean, it wasn't massive. It wasn't devastating in the same way that 17 is. You know, this guy goes into prison, a 35-year-old guy, and he gets out as he's fucking 50 years old. He's missing half his teeth. He's a broke down old man now. He has had a poor medical condition or medical treatment. Mm-hmm. He's missing half of his fucking teeth. Like this was a functioning guy in his 30s.
How come you didn't have any recidivism? How come you didn't? What would you attribute to the fact that you? I
mean, well, you know, when I got out, I was so angry. I was so just I don't know. I was irritated and upset and just you know. Everybody used to say I was aggressive. You're super aggressive. And I always think of aggressive as being violent. It's like you're ready to, right? And I said, no, I'm assertive. I'm assertive, you know, which is different. But I mean, I feel like I probably was aggressive. Not in a violent way, but I was upset because I didn't know what to do. And I think what I did was I kind of set a goal. You know, I forget what that saying is. God, there's a great fucking saying where it's like, if you have a goal, anyone with a purpose can withstand anything. If you have a purpose, you can withstand it. It's like, if you have a
goal, if you have a how, if you have a why, you can do any how.
Yes, something like that. So and that was like my whole thing was I want to start a true crime podcast. And I thought, I have all these stories written, and I like telling stories. And everybody in prison was like, man, you tell great stories. And listen, I've written guys' stories, and they came back, and they were like, fuck. Like, this is fucking amazing. It's absolutely what happened. I could never do this. And they're like, never put it together in this way. And I realized that, you know, I also realized, you know, in prison, working with people, is that there were so many writers, and I mean, like, writers for Rolling Stone, GQ, everything. And they would write me letters. I'd send them stuff, and they're like, I can't do this. I can't right now. I'm too busy, blah, blah, blah. But they'd come back, and they'd go, you are an amazing writer, by the way. And they would text me, and they would get on my email system and tell me, bro, honestly, this is phenomenal. Like, you've got to do something. Like, don't stop doing this. Like, it's like, this is a guy who writes for Wired. Like, he's written 12 articles for Wired. Or you know, Joshua Bierman, who's like, the movie Argo was from, you know, his article that he wrote called The Great Escape. It's like, wow. So you get to a point where it's like, I think I'm probably good at this. And I kind of thought I wanted to write true crime. If I could write true crime and do some kind of a podcast and make a living doing that, then that's a good life. And and that's what I thought. I thought if I could do that, I would be okay and I would feel fulfilled and there'd be no reason for fraud. But I definitely never really wrote off fraud. Like, there were many, many times I was broke and going broke and desperate and was thinking to myself, you know, you could, if you did this and you did this, and I'd start planning it in my head. I could do this, I could do this, I could do this. I mean, take the I never really got to the end of it. I just drift off. It's like I said, it's so comforting to me. The thought of fraud, it was the fact that it's out there was so comforting that I just drift off to sleep. And I just kept thinking, it's kind of like the alcoholic. I just thought if I just go one more day. And every time I would go one more day, something would happen. Something good would happen. Something would move forward. Somebody would come out of fucking nowhere and say, "Hey, bro, I want to buy this painting. How much?" And I'd be like, $800. They'd be like, "Oh man, where do I send the money?" You know what I mean? Like it was just a constant. And then even when the work was drying up, and I'm like, "Fuck, I got nothing coming in. Oh fuck, I'm broke. I'm gonna be broke here or something." And things are going bad, and something would happen, and there'd be a couple thousand. I'd get a fucking email, "Hey, would you like to fly into fucking such and such, and we'll pay you. We'd love to talk to you." And you talk to them, and next thing you know, Home Title Lock is flying me out and giving me, X amount of dollars to do a podcast, or I'm sorry, to do a commercial, and then it just kept happening. I kept thinking,
You did a commercial for Home Title Lock?
"Oh, are you kidding me? I'm like their main guy. I'm on the website. I did an info. I've done like 5 of them. We did they're a huge sponsor.
That's amazing.
I've been interviewed by Newt Gingrich, by all these guys. The War Room with Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon interviews me a bunch. You didn't know that?
Yeah, his commercials are on like Fox News.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you.
So, but I mean, things like I just kept going and things kept happening, and the true crime thing that I wanted to create never materialized in the way that I wanted it to. Does that make sense?
This isn't what you envisioned.
No, I wanted something. There was a series called Serial,
Sure.
right? Which is like the
Beautiful
It's what
stuff.
started
Yeah.
the true crime podcasts, and I listened to it, and I thought, boy, if I could do that with my stories, that would be something. But do you realize what a production that is?
There's like 100 people that work on that.
Yeah,
The sound design is unbelievable. The writing,
but I didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? Like I've never done that. I have no idea.
Right.
And then when I did Danny Jones, his podcast. And he told me, bro, you should start a podcast. I was like, I know, I want to. And I told him what I wanted. He's like, yeah, that's a big production. Like, see, he was the first person to ever tell me, like, that's probably.
Well, you're on your road to doing that now with your AI stuff. You're getting close. You're doing it.
Right. But I mean, I did at the time, like, if I had listened to Danny, who was making money running a podcast, but I was basically told him he didn't know what he was talking about. Like, he's doing exactly what I want to do and making a living doing what I want to do, but I'm living in someone's spare room, but I know everything and you know nothing, you peasant. And if I had listened to him, we'd probably have 1.5 million subscribers right now. Instead, I waited another year, and I came to the conclusion that it was about the same time COVID happened. I was working a deal with Blumhouse. I think I told you this before. I was working a deal with Blumhouse, and I was about to fly out to meet everybody, and COVID hit, and the deal just died.
Blumhouse got restructured. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, many times.
Yeah.
By the time I finally did talk to the guy this guy named Davey, who was the producer. I'm sorry, I think he was going to be the director. By the time I finally did talk to him, because he just contacted me about something else completely, and I'm like, hey, bro, whatever happened with this? Oh, yeah, Matt. Yeah, like, you remember Jennifer and Tammy? I'm like, yeah. He's like, they don't even work there anymore. Like, yeah, no, that's over. It's like, fuck.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so it was COVID, and I finally got to that point where I was like, I just need to start I need to do what Danny told me to do. Just grab my fucking iPhone and start recording videos and figure out how to do Final Cut Pro and figure out how to do this and figure out, like, just do the best with what you got. And luckily, there was a guy that was kind of like a fan, and he was trying to help me, and he put me in contact with Colby. It was like the meeting of Smith and Wesson.
If I only knew who those people were.
Oh, come on.
You know Smith and Wesson are the gun Smith and Wesson? You don't know the gun Smith and Wesson?
Break up with them immediately.
Oh my God. I mean, your episode did well last time, so we're happy. I mean,
yeah,
so
I'm
it's
in the
good.
top 25% of your episodes.
No, he's not. Is he?
I
No,
am.
he's not.
How many views did you get?
I was gonna say, what, did you count them?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
I'm at 150.
150 is at the top. Is that the
Top
That
25%?
probably is
Yeah.
because I bet.
If you go over the last 4 years, yeah.
Oh yeah, if you're
You have
going all the way
several
back
outliers of millions, but if you're getting above 150, that's the top 25%.
yeah. Well, and also that you have to think a lot of those are from years ago where we put out an episode and get 5,000 views. Like the first few episodes
Sure,
we put
yeah.
out were
Knock
15.
me, why don't you?
I'm not trying to knock him. Saying you have to take it all into consideration. And if you said like let's go with the last year, like that's probably a better.
Right. Then I'm bottom 50, but
150 is still
It's
pretty
fine.
good. Yeah.
It's good.
we'll be.
You're well spoken. That was a big thing too. That's how bad this is. That a lot of the people in the comments were like, "Bro, like a well spoken guest. I could understand everything he's saying." It's like, wow, that's the bar. I speak English properly. Sorry, no, I'm not. It's not a crack.
No, you're good. It's
not
funny. You need a crack at me. It's good. It's good.
Well, what's funny is when people say that about me, and I think, are you like I just think I speak
Regular,
English.
right.
I'm not, extremely articulate. It's not like I have this massive vocabulary, but I do know that it's funny how many times I will talk to people. Of course, it's usually younger people, right? You're talking to them and they don't you'll say something and they don't really know what that word means, or you're like, you never heard that before? But I also think, oh, you know what? It's dated. Like a lot. Sometimes I'll use words that are just dated, and so they don't get it. It's not that they just haven't heard it because nobody uses some words anymore. God, what is going on with my eye? Did I tell you I got a puppy? We got a puppy. My wife got a puppy. I didn't get a puppy. My wife got a puppy.
You're allergic, do you think?
No, I'm not allergic, but it's got little puppy hairs, the little fuzzy little hairs.
Sounds cute.
It's a pit bull.
It's not cute, but still cute.
Oh, they're adorable when they're puppies, And we're basically white trash. We had to get one.
Are you?
We were going to get something like something more trendy, like an English bulldog or something, maybe a whippet or something more, But that's just not who we are. We're Floridians.
I'm gonna get some clip farm out of you too. I'll ask you something like, with all of your EQ and IQ, someone has a job interview. What should they do, like from your perspective, to win over the interviewer? And that's just like a killer clip right there.
Okay.
You don't think so? People will look that up.
It's funny. I think that I think the bulk of what people are watching is just to be entertained by crime stories. Because I think they're on a forklift 8 hours, 10 hours a day, or they're driving a truck, or they're drywalling, or they're on a roof somewhere, and they're trying to hear entertaining, crazy stories. And that's what what they're tuning in for. But every once in a while, we talk about something just, off subject, and that we'll do like a short or something, and the short goes crazy. It's a great clip, and you're like,
I loved how you didn't tag me on Instagram on any of my shorts. That was really nice. That was really good of you.
I'll blame
You fucking bastard! 900,000
why
views,
did you
one of
reach
them or
out
something,
after the first one? Why don't you reach out?
and say to do that. I'm
Yes!
gonna boss you guys around.
Yes.
Yeah.
I really didn't want to impose. I was just grateful to have been on the show, to be honest.
well.
People listen. You got to get. It's funny too because people will. Oh, I didn't want to bother you. Like, bro, like if I say, hey, yeah, we got to talk on the phone. We'll schedule something, and then if let's say I miss that call or something happens, and then people are like, then I end up catching up with the guy 6 months later. And I'm like, well, whatever happened with that? They're like, oh, you didn't call or this happened or that happened, but I didn't want to bother you. I'm like, yeah, but I told you I wanted to call. Well, yeah, I know, but you're busy. Yeah, but you're really just forcing me to do what I want to do. I already said I wanted to do it. You're just holding me accountable. I want to do this. You're right. I am busy. It slipped my mind. I didn't call back. You're not, it is
So
like the
funny how
job.
we get into our.
I was gonna say, it is like the job interview thing. Like I'll see people, like my dad used to say this, is that he never, and it's the same thing with me. He goes, I never interviewed somebody and told them, okay, well, I've got everything I need to know. I'll call you back. And then that person left and called them back the next day. Said, hey, just wanted to check in with you. No, I got it. I haven't made my decision yet, but I'll let you know. He said, I've never once, and then the person 2 days later calls back, 3 days later calls
Never got
back.
upset at that guy.
Never got upset. He's like,
It shows he cares.
right. And not just that, he said every one of those phone calls, He said that guy might have been at the bottom rung. Every one of those phone calls was a tick up. That may end up being the guy. That may have been the deal breaker because he did call back. Because he's a go-getter. Nobody's ever going to say, I told you I'd call you back. That's it. The last thing I want is some salesman who's going to be following up. Like, are you fucking out of your mind? You know, of course that's what I want. All he can do is say no.
I made this like conspiracy theory in my head. I'm like, well, they put my tag in YouTube, so they have my information. And if they didn't do it on Instagram and I checked that you didn't do other people, I'm like, he probably just doesn't want to for some metric reason that I don't know about. But
No, we just forgot.
right.
You're kicking out how many shorts a day?
18 shorts a day. 18 shorts a day.
3 full episodes a week.
Yeah.
Wow.
Of this.
3 episodes a week?
Yeah. We do 4. Sometimes we'll interview 3, 4. You know, every once in a while something happens and somebody doesn't make it,
So
right?
you're just doing this 110% of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all I mean, I do this and I do the shorts.
Yeah.
You want to hear something funny?
Talk to me.
This is the Canadian thing.
Okay.
Listen, bro.
Speaking, not the shorts.
Speaking.
Yeah.
Speaking. So I do speaking engagements. You know, I get flown out and I talk in front of, let's say, a private lenders. There'll be a group of 50 private lenders. They'll fly me into. Actually, this happened. This was recently, like a month ago. We flew out to Utah, stayed at Eric Stein Lodge. Amazing. You know, I gave a speech, 45 minutes to an hour, and we went to dinner. So we stayed there like 3 or 4 days. Like they paid for everything. Of course, they fly up, they pay me, but they flew my wife in too. It was really great. It was really, and everybody was great. You know, and ate with them a bunch of times. So that sparks even more conversations. What's going on with this? Well, what happened? That hey, I have a, you know,
And you're the consummate dinner guest.
yeah,
That's where you shine.
So it's good. It was great. And then, of course, it happens all like I went to Orlando, a week ago. I went to, you know, so I'm always going somewhere at least 2-3 times. And this is actually, at least this is happening at least 3 times a month at this point where I'm getting these gigs. When I was trying to get them on my own, I'm getting one every 2 or 3 months, really because I'm just waiting for people to reach out to me. I wasn't doing anything. But I actually hired this woman who is a stay-at-home mom who's kind of bored. Like it's
And all she's doing is reaching out, getting you gigs.
I gave her, here's my LinkedIn access. Reach out. Like she has to post 3 times a week, and then she's getting a like 20% of anything that I make. So, and I even told her, I was like, look, well, also I'm paying her. I pay her every month, you know, a few $100s. So, and I said, look, do you understand it's going to take, this is not something that's going to happen right away. I said, it's going to take at least 2 or 3 months before you probably even get one. But then if we can kind of go from that one to, we get referrals and go to the next one, I'm like, it could build up where we could be doing several of these and I can get more higher and higher paying gigs. And I'm like, right now, she's like, what are you charging? I gave her the, you know, the layout, what I charge. And so she's like, okay. And I mean, listen, probably 2 months, 3 months later, we end up getting, probably 2 months later, we get a gig. It's tiny, right? No money, $2,500 or something. They flew me out, whatever, but it's $2,500. I mean, they're flying me in the morning. I'm doing a speech. I'm coming back that night. Like that's perfect. So, and then, you know, then there's another one. And then, you know, sometimes people are negotiating and she's like negotiating for me. She does this all the time. She'll text me and then not text me again. And I don't respond. And then like a couple days later, she's like, hey, didn't want to bother you, but I did text you about 3 days ago. I'm so sorry. I know you're busy. And also I wanted to mention that I got another email from so-and-so. And I'm like, why didn't you text me again? Why didn't you? I don't want to bother. Like, you're not bothering. I had to get on the phone with her and say, listen, you have to treat me like a small child. I'm in all kinds of directions. Text me back in an hour and say, hey, I need to know. I promise you, you're not going to offend me. I used to have a guy that would strip me down naked and ask me to just turn around, squat, and cough so he could look at my fucking ass before he'd let me go in the next room to talk to my mother. I cannot be embarrassed. I cannot be, you know, you're not offended. I can't be offended. So I explained that without the bend over and squat comment. And she was like, are you sure? And now she's better at it. She hammers me a little bit more. So, but the guest things have been getting better and better. And now they're really starting to take off. You know, now it's like we're getting stuff in from like Dubai. You know, we're getting stuff. And so these Canadians contact us the other day. And first they're saying, hey, we're going to fly you in to New York and have you do a speech. And I tell them how much, and they go, okay. And we're also going to, so it's New York and it's Canada. I give them a little bit of a discount. Okay, fine. And then we get a contract, an agreement, everything. The New York one falls apart. I'm like, okay. I'm like, and part of this happened beforehand, by the way, where I said, look, the New York one, great, that's a given. I said, but I need to get paid for the Canadian one, whether I can get into Canada or not, because I don't think I can get into Canada.
Why?
I'm a felon. And they're like, and Canada is just like the United Kingdom. They don't want felons coming in their country. So I said, so you guys need to figure that out. If I need a visa or if I can go or whatever, they were like, okay, no problem. Guy comes back, he said, I spoke with someone in law enforcement. They said she had no problem at all because you have a return ticket. I said, okay. We wait. I end up talking to, I've talked to Sean Atwood, which is a guy true crime guy, flies people in the UK. He told me he's had like 5 people fly in and 3 of them have been turned around. 2 of them got right in. That ain't great odds, bro. That's not great. It's the same system that they've got in the UK. You know, these are kind of, the countries are kind of mirroring each other, right? And okay, I'm not thrilled about that. So I then start doing some research. And by this point, we've signed an agreement where they say, look, here's the problem. Here's what we'll do. If you get turned around in customs and sent back, you can just do it remotely. We'll still pay you. I said, okay, yeah, that sounds reasonable. We sign everything. And then we have, you understand, we have the issue right now with the FAA. They just did on Friday. They're asking every airplane or provider out there, right? Every airline, commercial airline to cut by 10%. So they said flights are going to be a lot harder to get. And the ones that are flying, there's a 50-50 chance you make it. No, I'm just joking. So I was like, okay, so that's an issue. So I contact these guys and I go, listen, and I contact a buddy of mine who was turned around one time going to Germany for some reason. He couldn't get into Germany. I don't know what the exact reason was.
Not strict enough crimes you committed.
Yeah, I don't think they have an issue. It wasn't a crime thing. It was just for some reason he turned around. And I went, and so he was like, okay, so the problem is that he was held in a holding facility for hours, like 10, 12 hours. And so I then said, look, I tell my assistant, I said, I need to talk to these guys. I'm having an issue here. Because if I'm held for 10 or 12 hours and then it takes me 5 or 6 hours to fly back, I can't do it remotely. I can't do my thing remotely. And so I talked to them on the phone and they're like, yeah. They're like, no. If you get turned around at customs, then they'll just put you on the next plane but back. And I'm like, okay, you seem to think that all planes have an extra seat waiting. I don't know about you guys, but I'm pretty sure they book every single fucking seat they can. And I'm pretty sure that when there's 10% less people flying, there's going to be even more seats booked. So what they're really doing is they put you on the next, they put you on it's not called layover. It's called, what are they?
Standby.
Standby. Right, sorry. So they're going to put me on standby. Have you ever missed a flight and been on standby? And it's 8 to 12 hours. I missed a flight going into Texas and I was on standby. And the next one they could guarantee to put me on, because they're not finding any airline. It was that airline. And it was like 14 hours later, and that was still standby. And they were like, that's assuming that somebody doesn't miss. And I'm like, are you out of your fucking mind? What if they do? Well, then it's the next one. The next one is 4 hours later. Next one's, I'm like, because it was later in the day. So, I was like, so how long could I be? So if that happens when I go to Canada and I'm in the customs, how long do I, they were like, well, no, they said, you can still do it remotely though. And I said, really? They said, yeah, you just find a portal. I'm sure you can find a business. I said, no, you don't understand. They won't let me in. You think I'm going to be walking around the airport? If they let me pass customs, they've let me into the airport where that business, your business call center or business fucking remote business thing that you think I'm going to be able to find, you think I can do it there? Yeah. said, bro, they're not going to let me out of customs. If I could get in the airport, I could jump in a fucking Uber. I could jump in a taxi. They don't let you out of customs. They stick you in a cell. I could be there for fucking 18. My next flight out might be my plane that I'm on. I'm not. I said, you think that they're going to let me hook up to Wi-Fi and sit in a cell with my fucking laptop? That's not going to happen. You're basically a criminal. You're being held. And they were like, oh, yeah, I didn't think about that. I said, so who, what I'm saying to you is like, who is the law enforcement officer that you talked to that said this was okay? Can we get something from that guy? You know? And he goes, well, to be honest with you, it's just a guy I know at the local precinct here. I just called him up and told him the scenario, and he said, yeah, he should be fine. I go, should be fine? Should be fine. He's like, yeah, he said you should be fine. I go, is that promising to you? Does that sound And he was like, yeah, you know.
So what was the outcome?
This isn't good. This isn't good. The outcome was I tried to convince them, tried to give them like a discount to let me just do it remotely because that's a guarantee. And he said, you're right, that is a guarantee. But what ends up happening is he goes to their partner, their banking partner.
They fly you private.
No. Nice. I like that. Where were you when I had this conversation? So no, their partner said, look, here's what it's a banking partner. They're just a banking system that deals with fraud. So their banking partner said, look, we're not okay with this guy doing it remotely. We want him in person. So have him fly out. I'm flying another day early because they said that way he definitely will be able to get back. There's a buffer of time that will allow me to, that we're hoping will allow me to get back.
In time.
Do you see? Nobody in this, do you understand? Nobody in this situation is concerned that I'm going to be sitting in a fucking holding cell for 18 hours straight.
It's Canada.
Or
they'll just be like, sorry about this.
Yeah. Or what if this happens? Like, I don't think there's beds in these places. Like, I'm thinking they may say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we have to place you in like kind of like there, like the Mounties has a detention center. We're gonna put you in a van and drive you over there." I'm like, I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. I have to go to jail in Canada. The amount of, and you know what? Listen, like literally, I know when I was complaining about this to Colby, you know what his thought was? Fucking great content, bro. Though, like the content's great. I mean, Colby is willing to sacrifice me sitting in a fucking jail cell for 36 hours straight for content. That's it. That's all he cares about. He didn't care about, oh, Colby's good. Colby doesn't care about me. Yeah, that's it. So that's my Canada story. So yeah, I'm concerned about that.
It didn't even happen yet. We don't know what's going to happen.
The anxiety.
Anxiety?
I mean, obviously you suffer more in your mind than you do in reality. I'm not sure about that in this case. Not sure about that. Holding cells really suck, and they're boring. They're not comfortable. They're not built for comfort. Yeah, so that's where I am with Canada. So that's what I'm doing right now. But, you know, I'm getting more and more of those speaking gigs, all because of this, my assistant, and I don't want to mention her name, but all because of, she's on it, bro. And she's realized that I'm kind of an idiot. She'll contact me before I'm supposed to make a phone call, be like, hey, you do know you have a phone call at 11 o'clock, right? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, and it's with so-and-so, which was a referral from such and such, and I resent you the email for the talking points. Nice. You know I'm a fucking...
Give her more money.
Right? Let's not get crazy, you know?
He didn't want to say her name because he knows he owes you money.
I don't owe her money. She's actually excited. Listen, I was excited the first time I got like a decent sized check and was able to cut her a couple grand. You know, I was like, I was excited because I thought she's gonna understand. You know, before it was like, here's your $200. You know, here's your $400. But then you give her a couple grand, I'm like, she's gonna be like, this is working. And keep in mind, she just kind of does it here and there. You know, it's not like it takes 2 hours a day or anything. It's taking 30 minutes a day, maybe more than that. It's probably downplaying. It probably takes a little bit more, but still,
Colby,
yeah.
should we start?
This was starting.
We started already. We've been rolling.
Yeah, this will just be in the back.
He'll just shove this in the back. It's just good content, bro.
Shove
It's just
it in the
good
back.
content.
Freaking will they, won't they? Canada jail holding cell. This is
Right, but I'll have that if we can come back and yeah. That could be a clip, but that's the kind of thing that could be a clip. Listen, I did one the other day about my ex-wife.
12 years in prison, and you're worried about a holding cell in Canada.
I am.
They probably bring you
I'm
muffins.
so soft now. I'm so soft. Like I love my bed, my pillows. I have the whole my pillow, with the foamy thing. They're great. I have my.
bed. You have to sell those.
I have. Yeah, I do. I have my ghost bed thing. Those are nice. They stay nice and cool.
Let's start.
Do you use ghost bed? It's McGregor. That's who you remind me of with the hat. It's Colin McGregor, right?
mean Connor?
Connor. Sorry, Connor McGregor. I'm not a fight fan, but Connor McGregor. I mean, without the muscles.
Without
and the attitude.
Yeah, and the Irish accent has got to be the most prominent thing.
Doesn't he wear the hat?
So basically, nothing like Conor McGregor. Just
No,
there's a
you've got-
hat on my head.
Doesn't he have a beard sometimes? Does he have a beard?
Sometimes. Yeah.
You're
he has
not-
a beard.
Yeah.
You're not wearing your black T-shirt, so we can't get the
I know.
exact same shocked look of you in every thumbnail when you're like reacting to a guest. You know?
Colby will just pull one from another.
Yeah.
He's actually got probably a file of different.
Did I put a black shirt on you the last thing we did? Do you know?
On me?
Yeah. Sometimes I do that.
You
With
put
the
a
guests.
black shirt on me?
Sometimes.
No.
Well, I
you
probably
didn't,
would.
and you have no right to do that.
No authority.
You have no. My name, image, and likeness should not be associated with a mere black T-shirt. Look at this style. Come on.
Well, usually when it's a lawyer or someone,
When
they
it's a
dress-
lawyer, you told me that there's only been like 3 non-criminals on this show. How many criminal lawyers have you had?
We've had a few.
Yeah, a few.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them are just barred, but still,
Yeah,
still have a law degree.
there's still time.
What is with the hat, by the way?
The hat
Is
symbolizes
your hair's thinning? That's what when I see people with hats, that's what I
Yeah.
think. Is the hair thinning?
My,
Hey,
my hair's all right.
Yeah. Let's see it. I never wore hats.
I can give you my guy.
Yeah.
Where is it in Turkey? Your guy?
No, I'm just joking. I did it in
You're not joking.
No, I did it in Nashville, Tennessee. I did 2. I'm saying I'm joking. I don't know his name. It was Hair Club for Men's Surgical Wing, and it was called AGT or something. But But now everybody does it. Everybody's doing it.
I want Elon Musk's guy.
Oh my God! Did you ever see Tosh 2.0 or Tosh?
Sure.
Have you ever? I saw a thing where the first 2 seasons, and then after he did, he's got a full head of hair now. He was really balding. I mean, it was super thin, and now full head of hair.
Yeah,
What a life we
I'm
live.
trying to convince Matt to come to Turkey with me.
I think I may go to Turkey.
Yeah, ride a hot air balloon.
No, don't say that. Those poor people. God, see, I hate that. The idea of just a normal person living their life, just and then tragedy. Yeah, my problem with going to Turkey is, but I think the hair thing is different. Is that I've seen some TikToks where some 2 women went to Turkey one time to get liposuction, and they put them under. They came back to the United States, and it was super cheap. And came back to the United States, and one of the women kept having this reoccurring pain, and finally went to her doctor and said, "Look, I went to Turkey and this and that," and they did a scan or something. They came back and they said, "Your half of her liver was gone or something." She's like, "What?" They're like, "Yeah, you're bleeding from the incision or inside." She's like, "What are you talking about?" They're like, "Yeah, you didn't know." She's like, "No." And she had gone there, went under, took out something, spleen, something. I don't think you need your spleen, but they took something out, and she was, yeah. So there I've seen some of those. That's probably that's probably put out by the surgeons here in the United States. It's probably propaganda, some misinformation. Either way, I would go because they don't put you out, and I can watch. I can say, "No, I want to be in the room when you're doing Colby," and then I can say, "Colby, you got to be in the room," and then my wife will be there too. My wife's way more
Be a
gangster.
family affair.
She's way more gangster than Colby anyway. I trust her more than Colby.
Right. That makes sense.
So, all right. So yeah, is that what's going on? What's happening with the hat? You didn't answer.
Yeah, no, it's just a style preference.
You're not Irish.
I always like hats. I think it adds a lot of character to people. And growing up, I grew up a Orthodox Jew, so I would wear a hat since I was 13. On weekends or to fancy occasions, they wear a felt Borsalino hat. It's
I had a hat like that with earmuffs, and I wore it around the house, and I wore it all the time.
Well, this one's got, a flap. So
Yeah.
You have hair. You have full head of hair.
Yeah, I had that.
my
I can
gosh.
get I can get even jiggier with it.
Yeah,
but
I had that, and then my wife it mysteriously disappeared in the airport security and never came through the thing.
never came through the thing.
Just gone.
TSA took some guy stole it.
Yeah.
Do you want? Wait, what did I do last time? I left your.
Where do you want to send?
Do we
Where do
leave
you
it?
want to?
Yeah, you left my socials, my that I'm an attorney, jasoningber.com. jasoningber.com is great.
Okay. All right. All right. I'm just gonna say we're gonna leave the socials and your website.
Sounds
Okay.
great.
All right. Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe
Why
button.
does he talk so fast during these?
Because I know that people have already, as soon as I say it, they're clicking off.
So, but
Yeah.
you think the speed is going to help you?
You think I should do it
It's
slow?
hilarious.
I can do it slow.
I would keep it going. I would just do it.
You got to leave that in there.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. hit the like button and please subscribe. Share the video. And if you want to get in touch with Jason, please go into the description box and we're going to leave the link to his website. We're also going to leave all of his socials, and he really wants to hear from you. No matter how small the case, he's willing to have a consultation for free. No, just joking.
First, reach out to Matt. Have him
Yeah.
screen.
Screen. Don't bother this guy. Anyway,
No, why?
No.
Now I sound like this pretentious.
all right.
This is all staying in.
What?
I said this is all.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Please, if you think anybody might enjoy this all over the place video, please share the video.
Why are you being self-deprecating about our discussion? Don't do that. Don't do that. Stay on positivity.
Thank you for watching.
There you go.
Oh, wait. I know. The other one is also, if you want to be a guest, in the description box, we have a link so you can go to our website, go to the Be a Guest page, and you can fill out a very brief little questionnaire. It's like 6 questions or something. And then leave a short video. You can take it with your iPhone, like a 3-minute video saying, hey, man, this is what I did, blah, 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 whatever. Short video, and that's it. Yeah, send it to us, and we will get back with you. Thank you very much. See ya.